Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Spano. I'm going to be serving as your facilitator tonight. I'll do a little bit more of an introduction in just a moment, but let me get us organized for the meeting tonight. For our agenda, I'll walk through those other items in just a moment. We're now at the welcome and introductions. And before reviewing those other agenda items, let me introduce the people behind me. So over on this side is the Joint Cities Working Team. This Joint Cities Working Team consists of council members from the 4 cities associated with the Stevens Creek Trail. So we have the Cupertino Council member, Darcy Paul, your Vice Mayor from Sunnyvale, Tara Martin Milius, and this is Jeannie Burns, and she is the Mayor Pro Tem in Los Altos, and we are waiting for John McAllister, who is the mayor from Mountain View. He will join us shortly. Over on this side, we have staff. This is Kent Steffens, and Kent is with the City of Sunnyvale. This is Cedric, and make sure I get it right here, Novinario. Excellent. And Cedric is from Los Altos. This is John Merchant, and John Merchant is from Mountain View, and Gail Seeds is from Cupertino. And the technical consultant for the feasibility study is joining us here tonight too, and that's Jana Socal. She's the principal consultant from Socal Environmental Planning. As I mentioned, my name is Sean Spano. I'm your facilitator tonight. I'm actually a professional facilitator. I'm not a staff member with any of the cities. I'm not a council member of any of the cities, or any other city for that matter. And I was talking to one of the participants here tonight, Ed, and Ed asked me about myself, and he said, "Are you neutral?" And I said, "Absolutely, I'm neutral. That's why I'm the facilitator tonight." So I do not have a stake in the Stevens Creek Trail. And my job tonight is to facilitate the meeting such that you all have an opportunity to provide your input. And your input tonight is not going to me. Your input tonight is going to the Joint Cities Working Team and to the and to staff. We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a bit, but the Joint Cities Working Team is the group that is receiving the input tonight. There's an opportunity, obviously, for oral input tonight. There's also an opportunity for written input, and I'm really going to stress the written input. You have a flyer that was outside, out on the table out front. It has the address for you to provide your written comments, and the written comments are very, very important along with your oral comments tonight. In fact, the written comments will go with the proposal that goes to the 4 city councils. So any written comments that you provide will actually go forward to the city councils. Let me also say that we'll talk a little bit more about the process in just a moment, but the Joint Cities Working Team over here is responsible for eliciting the input, synthesizing, processing the input, and then formulating a proposal that they will take back to their respective councils in the four cities. That will come later on in the slides. Let me also emphasize, no decisions have been made. There are no recommendations on the table at this point. We're at the point in the process here to elicit public input so that the Joint Cities Working Team can formulate their recommendations that they will then bring back to their city councils later this year. So as we move forward on the rest of the agenda, where are we and where are we going? So I'll talk a little bit more about that, specifically some of the comments I just made in terms of the process map. Where have we been? There will be some slides in terms of some history around the Stevens Creek Trail. What do we want to accomplish tonight? What we want to accomplish tonight, our main goal tonight, really our only goal tonight, is to hear from you, is to elicit your input tonight to get your views, perspectives, and ideas about the Stevens Creek Trail. Submitting written comments, I'm going to emphasize that again and probably a couple more times, how important it is for you. Love to hear your oral comments tonight, but how important it is for you to follow up if you have not done already, haven't done that already, is to provide written comments as well. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the meeting format after we go through some of these slides. And the slides that we're going to work through, actually let me go to the process map slide, and then I'll get us organized for a couple more technical slides. This slide here is actually on a large poster board in the back, so it's blown up. If you have a chance, we're going to be very informal tonight if you want to get up and look at that a little bit more closely. A Couple things I want to point out on the process map here. On the very top, in the pink boxes, is the Joint Cities Working Team. And so they have met a couple times before tonight's meeting, and those meetings were in conjunction with the release of the feasibility study, the draft feasibility study on March 27th. So the green shaded box there is where we are right now, the 3 public meetings. We had a meeting in Sunnyvale on May 11th. Here we are in Cupertino on June 1st, and next week on June 8th, we will be in Mountain View. Following tonight's meeting, the Joint Cities Working Team will meet again in July and process the input that they received and start the process of formulating recommendations that they will then bring to their respective councils later on this year. You'll see along the bottom there is the Citizens Working Group, and the Citizens Working Group is working in parallel with the Joint Cities Working Team, and I suspect there's many members of the Joint Citizens Group here tonight, Working Citizens Group here tonight. They are citizens like yourself, and they are representatives from each one of the cities. They will formulate their own recommendations that they will forward to the Joint Cities Working Team, and that's another set of data that the Joint Cities Working Team will be working with as they formulate their proposals and recommendations. And then as we see over on the right-hand side, ultimately, where this process goes, as I mentioned, is to the 4 city councils, because they are the decision makers, and that will happen later on this year. What is going forward to the 4 city councils? We don't know. Those recommendations, I really want to stress that, those recommendations have not been formulated, and they're not, because they haven't been formulated, they're not ready to go to the city councils yet. That lays out in front of the work of the Joint Cities Working Team. Okay, as we move forward here on the process map, again, there's a blown up picture of that here, and if you want to take a closer look at the timeline here. Now we move into deliverables to the City Council. So there's 2 parallel paths here. On the left-hand side is the feasibility study. You'll see draft feasibility study report. These are parallel processes, but they're not the same. Written comments that you provide around anything that you want to provide written comments about the feasibility study itself, would appreciate that. Welcome your input, provide those written format. Once those written comments are made, the feasibility study will be finalized. In its final form will then be sent to the city councils. That's one path. There's a second path, and the second path is where we are tonight. Public input meetings on the right-hand side. Oral comments, written comments, as I've been mentioning, get folded up into a set of recommendations, and those recommendations go to the city councils. With that said then, I'm going to turn it over to Kent Steffens, Assistant City Manager from Sunnyvale, and Kent's going to walk through some technical slides, a little bit of history. There's some maps here that he's going to introduce you to, and then all the purpose of this presentation is to set the context for your input. And you're welcome to stand in the back. There are chairs in the lobby if you want to sit in the lobby. There's audio in the lobby as well as monitors in the lobby if you feel more comfortable sitting down and participating in the meeting. So I will join you after Kent walks through the slides, and we'll get ourselves organized for the public input and the format piece of the meeting.
All right, thank you, Sean. Good evening. I'm going to walk through a very brief orientation of the technical feasibility study, and I do want to keep it brief because the main point of tonight's meeting is really to hear from you. So, I skipped a slide. Okay. The feasibility itself is a technical feasibility study. It looks at engineering issues and issues that it would take to build a trail. It does document technical feasible alignments. It also documents infeasible alignments with the reasons for why they weren't considered feasible, things like lack of property for right-of-way or things that you would find there. The entire feasibility report is available on the City of Sunnyvale's website, and as Sean mentioned, there's a handout in the lobby, and that includes that web address where you can download the entire draft feasibility study. As was mentioned, the feasibility study doesn't have any recommendations. There's quite a number of different alignments that were considered feasible and were in the input stage, but neither the draft report or the final report will actually have recommendations for which alternative is considered the best, and that'll come through the groups that were previously mentioned. A little history about the Stevens Creek Trail. Studying the trail alignments has been around for quite some time. The first study was done in 1961, and it was a study by the county that really created a vision for the trail that said the Stevens Creek Trail will link the Bay Trail to the Ridge Trail and connect to the Skyline to the Sea Trail that extends to the Pacific Ocean in Big Basin State Park. So the vision as far back as 1961 was to have a trail that went from San Francisco Bay to the ocean. Many of those segments are already in place, but there is a gap that exists in this center section in our four cities that's being looked at as a gap that could potentially be filled. There's been a number of other studies that have been done throughout the years since 1961. I'm not going to read all of these different studies that have been done by the various cities, but we're now in 2015. We have a draft feasibility study that's been released for public comment. And again, that draft is posted on a website, and you can make written comments via email. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the study team. There's the four cities working team that has one elected official from each of our four cities that are participating. There's a citizens working group that has 3 citizens appointed by their city councils from each of the 4 cities. There are the city staff that are here tonight, and also our environmental planning consultant. And also you, members of the public, that have contributed throughout this process, and we hope to hear more input from you tonight. So a few parameters. The study area itself really looks to fill that gap in the trail from Stevens Creek Boulevard to the Dale Heatherstone bike pedestrian bridge that's in Mountain View. And so the boundaries of the study are on the north side from Dale Heatherstone Overcrossing, Mary Avenue on the east side, Grant Road on the west side, and San Antonio, Rancho San Antonio County Park. It looks, the study does consider extensions into that park. And on the south end, Stevens Creek Boulevard. Some of the parameters for the study. It does look at where public lands are that could be used. It does look not only to accommodate bikes and pedestrians, but to protect habitat, to accommodate bicyclists of all skill levels, to consider direct routes, to connect parks, schools, shopping, and other bikeways that already exist in our cities. The study report did look at a wide range of challenges, and so there are challenging segments that need bridges, perhaps tunnels. There's crossings of very busy streets and even freeways like Interstate 280. And with all that, it also looks at where are there opportunities to protect habitat along the creek corridor. So the study itself breaks things into reaches. So there's 3 reaches and these reaches correspond to the maps that are behind you. And so map 1 shows Dale Heatherstone to Fremont. Map 2 is Fremont to Homestead Road. Map 3 is Homestead to Stevens Creek Boulevard. And then the 4th map, which is over in the corner, is how we could make connections to Rancho San Antonio County Park. So I wanted to orient you a little bit, and these are the maps that are on the easels in back, and so you can get up and take a closer look if you wish. One of the important things to look at on these maps is the legend, and so how things are color-coded are very important, and there's actually a lot of information shown in these maps. It includes where the creek itself is at, where there is public lands owned by the cities or by other public agencies like Caltrans or the Water District. The different colors for the alignments actually represent the type of improvement it might be. So some are on-street bike lanes, some are off-street bike paths, and based on the color that you see on the legend, you can tell for a particular street what type of alignment was considered there, what type of improvements. It also shows where there's bridges and where there's a need for intersection improvements. So some of the crossings of the busier streets like Fremont, it identified intersection improvements that would make it safer for bikes and pedestrians to cross there. So I'm not going to go through each of these maps in details, but essentially when you see these colored lines that are up right now, all those are considered a feasible route. So there's lots of different choices that are possible. Okay, I think I got it back. My computer was having some fun with me. Okay. This is map 3, Homestead to Stevens Creek. Again, the colored lines are possible routes that were considered feasible in the study, and the maps in back show more details. This map, last map, shows connections from Stevens Creek Boulevard into Rancho San Antonio Park. So okay, I'll go back to map 2, thank you. This is the middle segment from Fremont to Homestead Road. And again, all these maps are included in the study report that you can download, look at in more detail, and they're on the boards that are in back tonight. So one of the challenges is with all these different routes that are potentially feasible, how would you connect everything together? And so we have one map that's on this side of the room in back that shows potentially how could you make the connection. And so this doesn't show all the possibilities, but it does show how different alignments through these different segments could string together to give you a continuous path from Dale Heatherstone to Stevens Creek Boulevard and to the Blackberry Farm Golf Course. So really the issue for you tonight is how might that connection be made? What alignments do you like? What alignments do you not like? We're here to listen to your input tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Sean, who's right behind me.
Thank you. Excellent. So I should note, too, I mentioned that process map that lays out the timeline and what the next steps are. There's the handout that has the URL for the feasibility study as well as the email address for your written comments, and then on the back is the process map in addition to being on the poster. So, and that information is here on the screen as well. Okay, so now we're going to get ready for to hear from you, and which is the primary reason we're here tonight. So, meeting ground rules and format. So, there's really only one sort of critical ground rule tonight, and that's respect all speakers, all viewpoints. So because it's a public input meeting, the floor is open for all views, all perspectives, all ideas, all speakers. And there's some of you that are going to have no problem coming up to the microphone and presenting your view and sharing your view. You feel very comfortable doing that. Others speaking in public's a little bit more challenging. So one of the things that we can do tonight to help create an environment so everybody feels comfortable sharing their views is to respect all views and all perspectives. And so if we can avoid booing, catcalls, shouting out, because that's pretty intimidating for somebody if I'm going to get up there and be booed or catcalls, and even excessive applause starts creating an environment here where people don't feel, some people might not feel comfortable speaking. And if some people were not to speak tonight because they didn't feel comfortable, they felt like they were going to be evaluated or criticized, that would be a shame, because that's not what the purpose of this meeting is tonight. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to hear all the views that are in the room. We're going to have you line up here at the microphone, and everybody will have 2 minutes at the microphone. Gail will be here, and she's got an iPad that have a clock right in front of you, so you'll see the clock, and it'll start, of course, at 2 minutes and then wind down. And so we ask you please to keep it to 2 minutes. Not everybody has to line up at once. You can all rotate in, say there's 5 or 6 people in line, and then rotate in. We're going to stay as long as you're ready to speak tonight. So it's not like we're going to cut this off at any particular point. And then in a minute, I'm going to ask you to consider addressing the focus questions. But before I do that, let me just put one other idea on the table. We had the meeting, and I think I said May 11th. It was actually May 21st was the first public input meeting in Sunnyvale. And so we heard probably 100 people speak that night. If you had a chance to speak at the Sunnyvale meeting, good for you. we're going to ask you just sit back a little bit tonight. Let new speakers come forward tonight. Let's give them priority this evening. And I'll say the same thing at the Los Altos Mountain View meeting next week. So let's hear from the new speakers, and then you can come in and provide your comments again. And then consider addressing the focus questions. Just consider addressing the focus questions. The floor is open for whatever you want to say in your 2 minutes tonight. What is going to help the Joint Cities Working Team the most are these focus questions. What are your trail alignment preferences? Why are they important to you? And what trail alignment options and characteristics do you not prefer and why? And if you're not ready to answer those questions, that's okay. You use your 2 minutes for whatever you want to talk about. Maybe you don't have a preference. You just want to see the trail, a contiguous trail built, and it doesn't matter to you what the preference is. Share that with us. Maybe you don't have a preference at all. Maybe you don't want the trail built at all. That's okay too. Share that perspective with us. So again, there's no shaping or pre-shaping of what you're going to say. I just want to put those questions up there because those will be the questions that are going to be most helpful to the Joint Cities Working Team as they move forward and provide their recommendations to their respective city councils. I'll come back to this slide in a moment, but I just want to note that here we are June 1st, and again, next Monday, June 8th, we will be at the Mountain View Senior Center with a format very similar to this evening. Okay, so we're ready. If you're ready, we're ready. We've got a speaker coming up to the microphone, great. Okay, and as you come up to the microphone, your name and your city, and then we'll jump into your 2 minutes, okay? The floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay. Judy Wilson, Cupertino, and I've lived here for 20 years. My knowledge is more of Cupertino, and I do believe that if we have a trail, it should follow something like Mary and Foothill, and the reason why is those are very wide, and you know that we have had earthquakes here. We also, some of us living close to the creek, we have to pay flood insurance because there's a risk of flooding. And so when you stay out on those broad areas, the fire department, the police, whoever, if there's an emergency, can get to them. And also, there's side streets off of those things so people can scatter or move or travel. When you get into the little neighborhoods that are close to 280 that are kind of locked in and there's only 1 or 2 streets in and out, and you've got 1 million lots with at least 2 cars each, and they all have to back out onto a street that may be crowded with something else, and the fire department can't even get in there, that's disaster. So I wish you would look also at disaster preparedness for any trail that you have. I just don't think that it would be wise. The other thing is Stevens Creek itself is now getting more and more crowded with cars. And, some people slow up, some don't. So remember that. I mean, if you have to cross there and you're crossing at the lowest part where you've got cars coming from both directions, to me, that's not the ideal location. Whereas if Mary is nice and wide, there's a light. Even if you're blind, you can, hear the beeps or something. And Foothill is much wider too. So you can do a lot of preparatory and safety gear there. But when you get into the smaller areas and you have more traffic and crowding, that's not wise. It's just asking for disaster is what I'm saying, So please keep that in mind, and whatever way you do it, you better get the fire department, police, and everybody involved as to if there is an earthquake or anything else, how are they going to treat that in those areas, in the trail?
No, it's okay not to clap. It really is.
Waiting for my 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get the clock worked out here.
My name's Terry Garrity. I'm a 22-year resident of Cupertino. I live in the Monte Vista area, fairly close to a number of the potential trail alignments. My concern today is expressing my interest in the Homestead to Stevens Creek portion of the trail. So the trail alignment preferences that I have in general are to try and keep it as close to the natural creek itself. I think that's one of the benefits that I've experienced in the trails we have throughout Silicon Valley. Ideally, if it could be right along the creek like we have in many places, like it exists today in Mountain View, that's not feasible, and the study points that out. But if we could keep it as close to the natural trail alignment as possible. So from my perspective, going up Stevens Creek and across Mary Ave is far away. Foothill is also not ideal for me. And some of the characteristics I'm trying to avoid in the alignment would be having the trail go along crowded throughways like Foothill. To me, some of the benefits are pedestrians biking and running and hiking the trail, and those are very crowded and potentially dangerous intersections like 280 and Foothill as an example. As a cyclist, I think this is potentially dangerous to route more people along there. If we could move them away and have them go through a neighborhood and even over another bridge like Mary Ave, that would be ideal to me. And I live in that neighborhood, so I'd be very happy if that was the kind of trail alignment that we took closer to the natural alignment of the creek itself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Fairchild. I've lived in Cupertino since 1970. I'm a former officer of the Oakdale Ranch Homeowners Association. I have some very strong feelings that I think I'm trying to represent the people that I live with in that association. Things we are very positive about is using Foothill Boulevard. It is one of the most widely used traffic bicycle paths in this whole area. It gets a tremendous amount of use, and I think the bicyclists that do use that path along Foothill Boulevard really like it. It works well for them. I also like to recommend going across Mary Avenue. I think that's a fine bridge that exists there. It will cost no more money to use that bridge than has already been spent on it. That's a very fiscally responsible thing to do. I'm very much opposed to putting a new bike path down Farlap Drive to a dead-end street and then spending millions of dollars to put a new bridge across 280 when one exists on Mary that works just fine. I'll yield the rest of my time to the gentleman behind me.
We'll keep it to 2 minutes per speaker.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm Jeff Leeds. I live in Los Altos. I've been a resident there since 1976. And my preference is that the path doesn't come through Los Altos at all and just stays over in Sunnyvale and Cupertino and up Mary and just avoids Los Altos, because I think Los Altos is a rural gem in otherwise suburban South Bay. And anything that detracts from that rustic quality is it's just going to take away from what Los Altos enjoys. It's just that feeling of country. So keep the path over on the other side of 87 and 85. Yeah, thank you. And the other thing is, no matter what you do, at that point, right when it comes off the bridge that crosses 85. You're going to be spilling into the city streets, because otherwise, before that, the trail all the way to the bay is cleverly constructed through corridors and around communities and under freeways and along the trail, along the creek. And it's a very clever construction. But once you get to that bridge that crosses 85 and you're over there near Remington or whatever, you're in suburbia, right? There's no way to avoid that. So I say just keep it over there, go up Mary. You can go over that bridge at Mary, I think, probably the one behind the high school. It's already built. And I don't know where you go on from there, but I'm just trying to avoid Los Altos. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary K. Marinovich, and I'm a lifetime resident of Mountain View, and then it was rezoned as Los Altos. And the area in Los Altos that we're talking about fallen leaf. I don't think anyone that's really a member of the Friends of Stevens Creek Trail, if they saw what was going to happen to that road with all the wipeout of old growth canopy, I think they'd be appalled. So I really want to keep it off of fallen leaf. As far as Newcastle, I need to study that plan more, but there is a park there, the Grant Park, so maybe that's convenient for people to go to the bathroom or something if they need to. Grant Road, it's such a busy street. Even if you gave me the option, I couldn't in my heart say it's a safe way to go. So my basic feeling is let's keep as much old growth canopy. Let's avoid taking down our trees. We're already losing so many trees in our area because of the beetle, and Mountain View's experienced a ton of growth, and it's taken out a lot of old growth trees. And of course, there was that whole decimation when Caltrain went and widened our 23785. So let's please keep as much habitat for nature as possible. Thank you very much.
You've got unlimited time.
Thanks, Ed.
You broke the clock.
Sure, I'll start. So my name is AJ Kaval, and a 30-year resident of Cupertino and Sunnyvale. My English language is limited, so I'm going to speak in Swahili. So I live in an area called Homestead Villas, which is right where the bridge is supposed to be, and that's actually a dead end. So it'll have a significant impact on our neighborhood. And last year, or was it 2 years ago, when this proposal came up about building a bridge, we actually got signatures from 97% of the people in our neighborhood who oppose the bridge going in our neighborhood into quiet cul-de-sac. And my preference definitely is, we have a bridge, Mary Avenue Bridge, which is not even a half a mile from where this new proposed bridge is, and Foothill Expressway. So a minute is enough for me, and Ed, I'm sure you're going to talk later. Thank you.
So hi, I'm Dan Cohen, and this is Max, and we're only going to take 2 minutes, not 4 minutes, even though there's two of us. So I was commuting from Los Gatos by bike up to sort of South San Jose, but I just moved jobs to work for Google. And having commuted up the Los Gatos Creek Trail for quite a while, I'm now commuting through the Mary Avenue and all the stuff we're discussing. And the on-road bike paths are nothing like as good as the Creek Trail. And we're looking at moving north, but one of the problems is the cycling infrastructure up here is not as safe and not as good. And Max?
And me and my dad really love to cycle on...
Let me lift you up. Thank you.
And me and my dad really like to cycle on bike trails, and I really love to ride my bike.
So if you could make it safer and keep it off the roads, that would really help us.
Okay, hello. I'm Greg Unakes. I'm a Mountain View resident. I'm also a member of the Citizens Working Group. I'm also a board member of the Friends of Stevens Creek Trail, and I'm on the Mountain View Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So yes, I'm an advocate for trail extension and an advocate for safe streets and bikes, for bikes and pedestrians for all ages. As a 30-year resident of this valley, I've witnessed the growth of the trail and bicycle network, with the current Stevens Creek Trail as a jewel in the regional network. The Four Cities Feasibility Study presents us with a rare opportunity to dramatically extend the trail and expand the connectivity of the growing regional trail and bike network. In Mountain View, in the beginning, there were the same fears and complaints expressed about crime, the cost, the homeless, decreased housing values, gangs, sweaty strangers, and so forth, that the trail would bring to our neighborhood. All these fears failed to materialize. Now, the biggest complaint is that the trail is too crowded. We live in an increasingly urban environment that is to a great extent defined by concrete and steel, the concrete and steel of the transportation network. Every few decades, we get an opportunity to make small changes to that network. We should take this rare opportunity to improve our trail network and increase the safety and neighborhood connectivity of our bicycle pedestrian network. We should view this as an opportunity to make an investment that will pay dividends for at least half a century in terms of reduced traffic pollution, safe places for kids to bike, access to open space, and more enjoyable walking, hiking, and running. So let's move forward with the trail, and we can accomplish the same trail experience we have in Mountain View and in those areas where we must go on city streets. Let's take the opportunity to make them safe and convenient for our neighbors, especially for the young and elderly. Thank you, and let's don't miss the chance. Thank you.
I do understand that for the people in the lobby, it's a little hard for them to hear, so if we can get as close to the microphone as possible would be great.
Okay, Tom Schaefer, Cupertino. Okay, I have been a Cupertino resident for over 30 years and a user of the Stevens Creek Trail for over 20 years, as a runner, walker, bicyclist, and occasionally a volunteer. I have also been very closely following this feasibility study. In the past 3 years, I've attended 25 trail-related meetings. There are no easy answers, and it's been hard for me to decide what I'd like to see. Here, I would just like to make 2 points. Number one, I finally decided that my personal preference is that we should not give the name Stevens Creek Trail to any segment unless it is family-friendly and safe for kids. If a trail segment does not meet that test, let's not call it Stevens Creek Trail. Number two comes from my personal experience. I live quite a ways from the trail, but I find myself drawn to it for recreational use. It's a half-hour ride just to get from my home to the trailhead, yet I find it worthwhile, even if it's just to have 20 minutes or so of blissful riding under the trees with no cars to deal with. Obviously, if a trail access point could be brought closer to my home, I would enjoy it even more. Which leads me to reflect on the neighborhoods affected by the study. I think that if an easy way could be provided to get across Fremont Avenue without having to deal with traffic, many residents in that area would be drawn to use it, either for an after-dinner walk to enjoy the 22 acres of new park space on the other side, or to get their bikes and explore even further. I have a similar thought about the Madera Far Lap neighborhood in Cupertino. A new bridge over 280 could be a draw for the residents here, too. I'm thinking that some of the residents might even be delighted to finally be within walking distance of Trader Joe's and not have to jump in their car every time they need a quart of milk or a few party snacks.
Finish up, please.
Just one sentence. In closing, my advice to the council members: be as practical as you have to be, but please sustain the vision of the trail. Thank you.
My name is Ross Lappin. I've been in Los Altos for 27 years, spoken several times to City Council of our objections to this trail running down residential streets. There are so many driveways and intersections that would be so dangerous to anybody on bicycles, little kids walking, people in strollers. It just is dangerous. Alignment preferences, I feel, could only be Fremont to Grant to Foothill and down accordingly. The options and the characteristics that I do not prefer, again, city streets, residential streets, inherently dangerous, and to waste and be fiscally irresponsible and spend another $15 million on another bridge. The Mary Bridge was built for and dedicated for the connector of North and South Stevens Creek Trail. That's why it was put in. We don't need another one. We just need to use the infrastructure that we currently have, and whatever we do, it needs to be done safely. Thank you.
I'll just remind you about the ground rule, please, of no applause. You're up.
My name is Mary Song. I live at Cupertino area for 5 years, and many of my neighbors have lived there for all their lifetime. If money is not a real resource and safety is guaranteed, I'm not be here to oppose the bridge cross 280. So I live at Peninsular Avenue Road. It's a very narrow path. There's no pedestrian path. Our kids have to take the path, go to school every day. And also, there are cars parking on both sides, even with our neighbors driving back and from work. It's a narrow path. If introducing the bridge across 280 and introduce the greenway, that would impose a great threat to our kids' safety and to neighborhood safety. And also, I think this is a smart city with many smart people. Money should be put in more critical things, like road safety, like our kids' education. If the bridge is mainly for recreational purpose, then safety, then we should take care of those most important things first, and then guarantee the safety before we consider introducing more things to recreational. Recreational biking, from my point of view, is not as important as those using biking for transportation, especially for our kids working across the path and also biking using the path.
My name is David Newswenger. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Sunnyvale. I am in favor of the project. I'm having a hard time deciding which is the best route, but I'm here to oppose the option that goes through Belleville Way. Because it is a residential street, as the previous speaker said, it's dangerous, I think. It's a busy street, particularly when there's a school on that street, and when the people are dropping off and picking up children, it's very busy, and I think it would be hectic and potentially dangerous. It's not wide enough for a greenway, and the parking for both the school and residents would be impacted. Thank you.
Come on up.
Ready?
Yes.
My name is Jane Kassler, and I have lived in Cupertino for almost 50 years. Actually, it's been 50 years on Barranca Drive. I would like to point out 3 things. My husband and I have observed that several times a month, usually on weekends, the street parking on Barranca Drive is virtually filled. So if we added more cars, more bicycles, it would be a real imposition. Number 2, there is a relatively sharp curve on Barranca Drive that restricts visibility. If a car is parked on that curve or near it, visibility is dangerously curtailed, and it causes safety concerns for both cars, pedestrians, and bikers. I would also like to point out that backing out of driveways can be very difficult. If you're backing across bike lanes onto an already narrow street, it could be hard for anybody, especially for those of us who are a little bit older. Also, I am not excited, or I guess I should say I do want to keep our area the safe, friendly place for children as well as for adults. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Golan. I've been a Cupertino and Sunnyvale resident for just over a decade and have been commuting to work and commuting to childcare and school facilities with my kids since they were born. Over the past decade, they're now 8 and 6. Commenting on what a couple of previous speakers just mentioned regarding it being unsafe to bike on residential streets, I'd like to emphasize that my son was just hit by a driver backing out of his driveway 2 days ago. Nothing major, but it's very scary. So I agree with that. I would like to point out the main difference between a trail and a bike lane, which from speaking to some of the people opposed to the trail here before the meeting, I feel like it's not clear enough to them. Now, the main tip, the best tip that I have for you guys who are opposing the trail and don't see the difference between a bike lane and a bike path or trail is to go out and ride your bike and experience it yourselves. Say, I'm a feminist, but I can only identify with women. I cannot be a woman and experience it myself. But as drivers who don't bike, you can get out of your car, ride your bike for a commute, for shopping, whatnot, and try it out. Just see what it feels like. The bike lane is used heavily by cars going in and out of driveways and parking lots and storing or parking, as you call it, by the side of the street. So keep that in mind, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marisa Desai, and I've been a Cupertino resident for almost 10 years. I live in the Monte Vista area and on a street that would be affected by one of the options here, and I come to you as a homeowner. So when my husband and I were looking to buy a home, we had a very specific set of criteria that we were looking to meet, and our current house met that criteria, and that is the reason that we made the biggest financial investment that we will ever make in our whole lives. Part of why we chose our home is because it's located in a quiet neighborhood where there's not a whole lot of foot traffic or vehicular traffic other than part of what's in our small neighborhood. And we wanted that quiet sense of neighborhood to raise our family and to really establish our roots. And I hope, I just wanted to come tonight to really impress upon all of you that a trail going through a residential area, whether it's ours in Monte Vista or those in Los Altos, is a fundamental change to a big reason of why we bought our house, and the same for others who purchased their homes based on the status quo. But that being said, I also want to be clear that I don't question the potential benefits of this trail, both for my family and for all of our community here, nor do I question that public funds would be required to do this. However, I do question the spending of those dollars to achieve this without putting priority on both how our existing infrastructure can be leveraged and improved to do this, i.e. The Mary Avenue Bridge, and second, how the impact of this trail can be minimized to homeowners like myself and many others here to not completely alter our neighborhoods and our homes. So thank you for your time.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, my name is Walter Ring, and I live in Sunnyvale, actually in the area of Fremont Ave and Belleville, in that area. I also just wanted to re-echo my voice of doing what's fiscally right and leveraging the existing infrastructure. I think all too often we take good times, and I don't know that we would consider us in good times nowadays, but I think many of us still struggle to live in this very expensive area. I echo some of the comments that have been said earlier, that we should use our funds more fiscally responsibly to take care of some of the essentials. I echo the previous comment that recreation is an important thing, but with respect to the priorities, I think the funds could be spent a lot better in leveraging the existing Mary Ave Bridge and the existing cycle lanes. Although there's always pluses and minuses, there were studies that were done when those bike lanes were set up. I think we should leverage what's there. Thank you.
I'm Gerhard Eschelbeck. I'm a resident of Cupertino. Recently, I spent some time in Oxford in the UK, where the most used form of transportation is the bicycle, and where bikes, cars, and hundreds of bikes share narrow roads every day. The concept of bike lanes is omnipresent. For the connection of the various trail segments, we should envision a similar bike-friendly environment. However, it is important to find a financially responsible solution with the least environmental impact. Therefore, we should prioritize, utilize, and upgrade existing infrastructure and make it safer and more accessible. We should approach this project with 3 principles in mind. First, fiscal responsibility. Minimize new structural additions and consider costs for new construction as well as ongoing maintenance. Second, utilize existing infrastructure and improve access and safety of existing routes. There are, in fact, existing bike lanes already existing. Investing and improving safety of these routes will upgrade the bike network throughout the city and would not just create a transit route. Third, minimize new impact on neighborhoods and on the environment. Adding more concrete does not make a neighborhood more livable and an environment greener. I respectfully ask the city council members to evaluate all possible options under these criteria. Using and improving existing infrastructure will create a sustainable and cost-effective connection of trail segments. Furthermore, it will maintain the integrity of surrounding neighborhoods and natural environments and will create an overall bike-friendly city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emma Schneider, and I've been a resident of Cupertino my entire life, which is 18 and a half years. My parents have owned our house for 30 years. I'm the current president of the Monte Vista Bike Club, and so it means I'm in charge of picking our routes for our club rides. One of our rides, we decided as a group to ride down to the Stevens Creek trailhead and then ride down a bit and then ride back. And our advisor brought her small son. So when we were riding, we rode over the Mary Bridge. When we were riding down Mary, it was very scary to have him on there. There was cars, and he wasn't exactly stable because young riders are not stable. They can't ride in straight lines exactly. And the cars don't stay in the car lanes. They oftentimes will go into the bike lanes, especially near intersections where they want to make their right turns and they don't watch for bikes. Also, when I was little, I've been riding since I was very young, 8 maybe. And my parents used to take me on Foothill, which was also very scary, especially where it crosses the freeway, where you go up the hill and the cars have a yield, not a stop coming off the freeway, and it's very dangerous. I've seen people almost get hit. I haven't seen anyone actually get hit there, but I'm not good at public speaking. So what I would like to see from the trail is make an easy connection to Blackberry and mostly stay off major roads. Residential areas are nice, but I think it'd be better to keep the trail closer to the creek, like on actual trails, not bike lanes, to keep it safe for the little kids, away from cars. Thank you.
My name is Porter Wong. I'm a resident of Los Altos. I only have one comment to make. I think we should consider other alternative other than the Fremont Avenue as part of the trail. The reason being, as of now, the traffic over Fremont Avenue is quite congested and it's a very busy road. And I think a lot of you already aware that Stanford is going to add a medical office right off 85 and Fremont Avenue. And they're going to have at least 100 staff and then hundreds of patients going to visit that locations every day. So going to make the traffic even worse than today. So I think having considered if Fremont Avenue is part of a trail, it would make it unsafe for people that are using a trail because, and also I think the traffic will be a lot more congested. So I hope that people will look at other better alternatives than using that sections as part of a trail. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kathy Sheridan. I'm a resident of Cupertino, 20 plus years, and I am in favor of the trail. I'm in favor of a natural trail, and that is important to me because of the safety of keeping cars and bikes separate, makes it safer, and for the just simple joy of being able to enjoy nature. Getting out of my house and being able to be in nature really quickly is important. So thank you.
William Reed, City of Sunnyvale. I've been a resident here for 88 years in both Cupertino, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale, and never moved from the location that we have. The area that I'm speaking about, consider, would be both Mountain View, Sunnyvale, and Cupertino. I am opposed to any designation of a trail through those areas. That they should be accessed for anyone who wants to ride through, walk through, or drive through. But it's not designated as a trail. The other thing is that we've been going through these meetings for a lot of years. I think that they started in around the 1960s, and there is not going to be anything accomplished that the city of Sunnyvale hasn't already done, and I'm sure that Los Altos and Mountain View feel the same way, that they don't want to lose parking on their streets, that there is no access. We've reached out of the 1950s buildings. We are now in millions of dollars for cost of purchasing homes that would be destroyed to make a trail. So I think it's time to finally give up this idea of the trail between Sunnyvale and Cupertino, designation as a trail. Everybody can use the streets as they exist, and we need some fiscal responsibility, and starting with eliminating this committee that is doing the survey.
With that said,
the second part.
Sir, your time's up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's a tough act to follow. Hi, I'm Rachel Goldine. I've been a resident of Mountain View for the past 12 years, biking to work in Cupertino those 12 years, and I'd like to say that I really enjoy the portion of the Stevens Creek Trail that's in Mountain View. I'm very appreciative of it nearly every day. And some of the things I'd like to share with you that I like so much about riding my bike along that trail, and when I run or walk on that trail too, are that I get to see other people. We get to see our faces, and I get to know people that I see on a regular basis and say hi to them. You don't get that in a car so much. And I enjoy seeing the nature, the flowers, and the animals and everything. I enjoy the fact that bicycling is a very quiet form of transportation. And one of the things also about safety, people have a lot of safety concerns. And the concerns generally are around worry for the safety of the bicyclist. And what I'd like to point out is that anybody who rides a bicycle rather than driving a car actually increases the safety of everyone else. So it's really the concern is that a car might strike a pedestrian or an animal or a bicyclist and injure that person, or another driver and injure that person, because cars that have a lot of momentum and can really do a lot of damage. But when you get on your bike instead, you're reducing that risk to everybody around you. So I encourage everybody who maybe hasn't been on a bike in a while to get on a bike and see how much fun it is, and get out of your car and increase the safety of everyone else. So I'm in favor of better bicycle trails and routes and better marking for bicycle transportation in general, however it may be done and worked out through the complicated politics and opinions of everybody. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Sujata Sridhar, and I'm a resident of Cupertino for over 25 years. And let me begin by saying I oppose the trail that goes through any residential, quiet neighborhoods. I'm against it. And one of the reasons I can tell about the Monte Vista area, because I live in that area, is that there's already the Blue Pheasant restaurant that exists there. And any trail that goes by, it's going to increase. Already we have more traffic there in the evenings. And this is going to cause more trouble. That's my opinion. And we already have, it should be rerouted through existing trail, like Foothill Boulevard or, that kind of thing, because it's already there and that's a busy street and that can work out that way. And I see a lot more, since when I moved here, it was quiet and a quiet city, but I see with all the development in the main street, and it's going to increase even more, the population, even in schools, everywhere it's going to increase, and this is going to add to that. So my opinion is to oppose the trail, anything that goes through any residential areas. Thank you.
Well, my name's Martin Delson. I'm not from Cupertino, not from Los Altos, not from Sunnyvale, not from around here. I live in San Jose, but I thought I'd share our experience. I live in Willow Glen. The previous speaker was concerned about trail going through a residential neighborhood. I live in a very pleasant residential neighborhood, and a trail was just opened up essentially around the corner from my house, less than a 5-minute walk. I can say only positive things about it. It's called the Three Creeks Trail. Hasn't even been built out. It's right now just a dirt path that will be built out as a trail in the coming year. It's a very pleasant place to be. My wife and I enjoy it. We take frequent walks there. It's used by children now going to school. It's used by people walking their dogs. And yes, they do pick up after the dogs. There's some neighbors that have put up little oatmeal boxes or so filled with plastic bags. People use them. Some other neighbor put up a garbage can. It's a very pleasant place to be. I can only strongly advocate, if you're living in a residential neighborhood, invite the trail there. You'll really like it. Thank you.
Keep it to a minimum, please.
Yeah, right.
The clapping. Not you, sir. We want to hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Craig Haupt. I'm from Sunnyvale. I'm an everyday bike commuter and an avid runner. This morning I was riding on the Stevens Creek Trail, and I was thinking to myself, why did I ride 2 miles out of my way to get on this trail? And another thought that occurred was, wow, there's a lot of runners on this trail today. And a little bit of introspection about that. Why do you want to get on the Stevens Creek Trail today? Well, one, it's away from cars. As a bike rider, it's always good to make sure you're not going to get hit by a car, and being on a trail is an almost guarantee. You're away from fast cars. There's been a lot of talk about Mary, Foothill, Stevens Creek, and I wrote on a couple of those today, and I'm an experienced rider and I do it. If I was going to make a recommendation to someone who was new to riding, none of those roads would be on my list of anyone should be riding on those. The places where they need to be are on trails where they're segregated. It makes for the best riding experience. One more thought on riding on the Stevens Creek Trail is the trees and the creek themselves. So I favor all the options that are near the creek, in the open space areas that you see on some of the maps out here. I really enjoy riding in those areas. It adds a little bit more removal from the city. I live in the city, kinda. But just have that opportunity 5 minutes away from my house, at least by bike, is great. Then I want to talk a little bit about running or perhaps walking. We haven't got a lot of coverage here today as people are talking a lot about bike riding in their neighborhoods, and those are all great comments. But what about the people who want to walk and run? And I think it's really important to consider those people. And when you start talking about busy roads with bike lanes, that really doesn't address their needs at all. People that want to get out and run and walk, I want an uninterrupted experience where they can walk a long period of time or run a long period of time uninterrupted in nature. And you're just not going to get those on Foothill Expressway or Mary Avenue. Thank you much.
Good evening. I'm Shani Kleinhaus with Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society here in Cupertino at McClellan Ranch. And I'm here to ask for some areas of creek that do not have any trails next to them. And the reason is bird populations are declining globally and in the United States. 50% of the species in the United States are now threatened by global climate change and by development and a slew of other threats. And some places, I understand, I like to go next to the creek and enjoy it, but our intrusion on the remaining wildlife corridors and remaining bird species and other species of our environment is tremendous. And we cannot assume that there is no impacts. We now know that birds will respond to people within 300 feet and may not nest within 300 feet of a place of activity where people bike and hike and enjoy themselves. So some areas should be left without a trail. And right now, almost every creek that has water in it also has a trail, at least on one side in the entire Santa Clara County. It's not a lot of places left where there's water and no trail. And this is something that I think should be considered. And in general, I mean, every street to me should be pedestrian and bicycle friendly, every one of them. And I wasn't going to bring it up, but maybe I should. I don't know if 85, the counter traffic direction, how about look at that as one lane only for bicycles during commute hours, not the one that goes with the commute, but the other counterway. I don't know if that's just crazy, but I was just thinking about it, talking here to my friend Jeff about it. So thank you all.
Jeff Paulson, Cupertino. First, I want to say that although I have been seen on late night TV lurking about this room in certain official capacities, I'm speaking tonight as an individual, not as a planning commissioner, nor as a member of the board of Stevens Creek Trail, or Friends of Stevens Creek Trail. I will give you $30,000 tonight. If you live on the creek in Los Altos and Sunnyvale, I'll give you $30,000 tonight to guarantee that you will never see Stevens Creek Trail come anywhere near your house or your backyard. What I mean by this is that I used to be a park planner, and I had a long coffee with one of my mentors, Craig Britton, who was the former general manager of the Mid-Peninsula Open Space District, master of acquisition. And he suggested that although parts of the creek are privately owned, that we could use various tools, lifetime estates, easements that we purchase now but take possession of decades hence, as a way to eventually complete the trail in a natural setting. This would take a long time. In the meantime, we could have other routes as a temporary means. But I disagree with the feasibility study when it says that private property is off the table. I think it should be on the table, but in a reasonable, gentle, considerate way that is voluntary for the residents, but probably for their benefit if they would like some money right now to put their grandchildren through college or something like that. So please, don't count that out as an option, because I think it would be a good one, and it's been used to great effect in many of the beautiful open space areas that we now enjoy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joetta. I'm a resident of Far Lap Drive in Cupertino for the last 9 years. And I just want to say I love the system of trails that we have in effect right now. I'm a runner. I run on Blackberry Farm Trail every day. I love the trails up by the bay. But I wanted to emphasize what some of my the previous speakers said, that there's a huge difference to me between a trail and a bike lane going through a residential neighborhood. A trail, the entire purpose to me is to separate the walkers and the joggers and the bikers from car traffic. I can only speak for Far Lap Drive, but it would be nothing remotely like a trail experience. We've got driveways, probably 70 driveways just along that one stretch, people backing out, kids playing basketball in the street, cars parked on both sides of the street. It would be difficult for bikers to safely get from one end to the other. What I would love to see is more energy exploring some of the more trail-like possibilities. So I'm not sure why the railroad tracks were taken off of the table, but I run there periodically. I ran there yesterday, and there's huge stretches of land on either side of the tracks that could, it seems like physically very easily be converted into a trail. I'm not sure what the politics of that are, but that would definitely be a trail experience. Also, Rancho San Antonio has miles of trails that I would love to see connected in some way and utilized better. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tina Ma. I'm a 25-year resident of Cupertino. I live in the Oakdale Ranch area, and Stevens Creek actually runs through part of the back of my property. And this proposal has come up in the past, and in the past I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago. And committees actually came down and walked through the back of the property and realized that there just wasn't enough area to put a trail. So the idea came about putting it in the front of the houses down the sidewalk. But having two kids growing up, I have let my kids play in the front yard. And the idea of people just walking through the neighborhood, when that's my front yard, they can see into my house, us having dinner, just doesn't seem like the neighborhood that I bought into, as one of the other speakers mentioned. And when they go through, it does dead end. So I'm concerned about bring in strangers, because now we have break-ins that we didn't have before. I'm concerned about safety. And I'm wondering about services in terms of how people are going to keep it clean, how they're going to install bathrooms, how the whole infrastructure is going to work if you put it through residences. So of course, I'm in favor of the grant or the Mary Avenue because it uses existing infrastructure. My kids are older now, so they bike, they run long distances. And so I know one of the main concerns for the Grant Road is that major intersection where 280 comes and we have the on and off ramps. And even as a resident, I would love to see that improved so I could walk or ride my bike to the Trader Joe's area or the Los Altos area. And the same for going over to the Oaks. I would like to be able to safely walk across the 85 off ramp. So those are my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ann Ing, 35-year resident of Cupertino, a trail and a bike advocate, member of the Citizens Working Group, and of the Friends of Stevens Creek Trail Board. But I'm speaking for myself as a Cupertino resident. But first I want to thank the City of Mountain View for the 5 miles of Stevens Creek Trail that they've built over the last 25 years. It does take time. A lot of it was very challenging and very expensive. The money comes from different pockets, but I know it's all taxpayer money, but I think it was well worth it. Then Cupertino, I should thank for our 1 mile of trail that's been built over the last 7 years. Again, it was very expensive, partly because of the extensive creek restoration, but again, I think it was money well spent. And thanks to all the 4 cities for uniting to figure out, to fund a feasibility study to see how we can close the gap. The feasibility cost over $100,000, but I think it was well worth it. It answered questions that we'd been wondering about for years in some detail, so we know what is feasible and what can't be done. The one good news to us was that the trail can be built from Dale Heatherstone down to Fremont Avenue. Caltrans is okay with it, the Water District's okay with it. It'll be very challenging, very expensive, but I think it would be, again, well worth it. I hope that will come to be. This is a case where the creek will be challenged and adversely impacted by the
Yep. Time's up.
It is. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Radhika Kulkarni, resident of Sunnyvale, and I'm just here to talk in favor of the trail. I use this trail extensively with my kids for biking, and every time when I'm on this trail, I thank those people who dreamt of building it. You know, it's such a safe and nice place for the kids, and not just my kids, but for the kids of the community. For them to be safe on the road, on that trail, biking and experiencing the nature, it takes you all the way through towards the shoreline. And I really, I know the change, for each one of us, the changes, we resist the change, but I think this is an opportunity. If we extend the trail, it will be really, really good for the future generations of Sunnyvale, Cupertino, Los Altos, and all the cities around. I think we should really do it. My son is also here, and he also wants to say two sentences. Yeah, his name is Arindam.
Hold the microphone down. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Arindam, and I really like the trail because it's nice and it's away from roads, and you can have a nice time to bike without any trouble, and you can peacefully bike. I also like to bike really long distances, so I am in favor for extending the trail. I also don't like from Cupertino. I don't like biking on the road all the way to the start of the trail because I don't like biking on roads. So I'm happy if there's a trail extending more to Cupertino. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Catherine Tomino, resident of Los Altos. I'm also a realtor. I've sold property on Fallen Leaf Lane. It's not evident unless you have a title or a survey done that the improvements encroach on the 9 feet of frontage on the road. Over the last 60 years, homeowners have put in hardscape, landscape, irrigation systems, federal property, mailboxes, and the county and the city sat silent. I could almost characterize the residents' use of this property as a prescriptive easement. If that 9 feet were taken for the trail, the driveways would be shortened to the extent that they would merely be an apron in front of the garages. And while the garages look like they can accommodate two cars, they really can't. So there'd be a lot of overflow on the streets of cars, which I think would make it very perilous for a bike lane. I don't think it's appropriate to put the trail down Fallen Leaf. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Kathleen Cordova, and I'm a resident of Sunnyvale. I live in the Belleville Stevens Creek Stevens Creek Neighborhood Association behind homes in our 1 mile section. There is no access to the creek. It is privately owned and is also very narrow and very damaged. I am part of a newly formed group called the Citizens for Responsible Trails. We're a local advocacy group made up of residents from Cupertino, Sunnyvale, and Los Altos regarding the routing of the Stevens Creek Trail. We stress fiscal responsibility, utilize and upgrade existing infrastructure, and minimize impact. I believe that we all can agree that a Class 1 protected from traffic like the Mountain View portion of the Stevens Creek Trail would be a wonderful asset for the city of Sunnyvale and Cupertino. I am not anti-trail, but instead of calling it a trail, as it can only run on Sunnyvale city streets in neighborhoods not separated from traffic with no actual sighting of the creek, a route. Instead of calling the portions in Sunnyvale and Cupertino on streets a trail, I advocate for safe routes that can provide connectivity for residents of all ages, cost-effective safe routes for students, residents to reach retail venues, commuters and recreational users, and families that want to eventually reach green spaces such as Blackberry Farm, McClellan Ranch, and trails in the Cupertino foothills. What if it is possible to upgrade existing infrastructure and be fiscally responsible at the same time? Let's utilize and upgrade existing bike lanes with linear barriers, like cities all over the United States are now starting to do, to create safe routes for conductivity. Homestead Road to local schools, and in Los Altos to Rancho. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kim Hall, and I live in Sunnyvale. And most of what I had planned to say, Kathleen just said. But I'm going to do it again. I think it would be great. I have lived in that area for 20 years and started working, talking about the trail 3 months after I moved into my house. So I've been involved in this process for 20 years. I think it would be wonderful to have a trail along the creek. I think that would be a great idea. But the reality in that area is there's no land to do that. And my understanding is that in 1961, when this was first proposed, it was found to be unrealistic to continue the trail through that area because all of the land there was private. I really think that it's important that we understand what the purpose of the trail is. Is it just a recreational trail that people use once in a while? As one of the members of the local advocacy group mentioned when he said that his family uses the trail once or twice a month. Or is this a trail that is a community asset that improves the day-to-day quality of life for our residents? I believe that improving the existing infrastructure, creating bike lanes that are safe, as many major cities in this country do. Places like New York City have safe bike lanes, and they have way more traffic than we do. I think that it would be good for the trail to go past local businesses, for people to be able to bike to the store, which would improve the economics in our area, make a healthier environment, and leverage. Never mind. You'll have to wait to hear the other. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bill Rankin, president of Save Our Trails, a Santa Clara County trail advocacy group. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight in favor of this extension of the Stevens Creek Trail. While I live in San Jose, I've biked many times and many miles on Stevens Creek trails. The four communities of Cupertino, Mountain View, Los Altos, and Sunnyvale have a rare opportunity to affect the lives of people not only in your own backyards and neighborhoods, but of people in the entire Bay Area. There are so few chances to create a connection between the Bay Trail and the Ridge Trail that this opportunity should not be missed. I encourage you all to work together to find compromises and solutions to create this vital link in the Bay Area's trail system using creekside and open areas for as many of the connections as possible. Where that is impossible and street connections must be made, please be careful to include clear signage to make off-trail connections as clear as possible. By making these connections, the people of Cupertino, Mountain View, Los Altos, and Sunnyvale will leave a legacy that will be appreciated for many future generations. Thank you.
My name is Brian Beck, and I'm a resident of Cupertino in the Farlap, Madeira neighborhood. I'm a recreational cyclist as well as somebody who rides his bike to work for transportation. When I started cycling a number of years ago, one of the biggest worries or impediments for me was safety, and in particular, how to get across freeways. It's easy to pick your way through nice, quiet streets in our South Bay area, but when it comes to getting across 101 or 280 or 85, it gets a lot more harrowing. And the problem with the neighborhood I live in, while it's a wonderful neighborhood, the only ways to get out into the rest of the South Bay are either on Foothill across the 280 interchange or on Stevens Creek across 85. I've become a lot more comfortable as a cyclist over the years, and I do those routes a lot. But they're still hair-raising, and hardly a time goes by where you're not just a little bit nervous, and sometimes a lot more than that. I'm also a strong supporter and enjoyer of the Stevens Creek Trail and the trail system that we have here. Would love to be able to take my family with me, or other friends and their children, to get from our neighborhood to the trails, but I worry about those crossings. If we could use existing infrastructure like the Mary Street Bridge or Foothill, that would be great, but we'd have to solve those problems. And actually, if we could come through on more residential streets and with bike and pedestrian-only bridges, that would be my preference. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel Beck, and I've been a resident of Cupertino for 15 years. I live in the Monte Vista area by Far Lap. I am concerned about new trail construction that will negatively impact the fragile habitat along the creek. Birds and other creatures need access to water, shelter, and food. New trail construction will impact wildlife. If there is trail construction, I urge the City Council to mitigate the environmental impact to the greatest extent possible. And because of this, I'm in favor of using existing infrastructure as much as we can. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Barbara Loebner. I'm a resident of Los Altos, 30 years on Newcastle Drive. I was on the Parks and Rec Commission when the Stevens Creek Trail first came to us to think about putting the trail along the creek there. I use the trail mostly on the weekends. I've noticed that the use of that trail has increased dramatically by families, children, scooters, tricycles, bicycles. Bicyclists and runners have always been there, but the family use has really increased. I love what those two ladies said before, safe routes. If our only route, we don't have a trail. We don't have a nature trail in this section. So let's not try to squeeze a square peg in a round hole. We have Mary, Fremont, Grant, and the neighborhood streets. Let's use them all. Let's put the experienced bikers on Mary, Fremont, Grant, and make it safe for them. If it's harrowing, then let's make us a bicyclist safe county, and we can start here. If people with their children want to go down Mary in a not so safe place, then don't do it. There isn't an auto-free path. Go down Fallen Leaf, go down My Street, go down Bellevue, go down Bernardo. Find a safe way that you can weave your children through there. Let's put some safe route installations in there, crosswalks, signing, whatever. You know, I lived here for 30 years. I worked on traffic safety programs. 30 years now, people still speed on every street in our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods simply are not safe now. Bicyclist trail, I don't care what. All of a sudden, I have a bike route on my street because of all of this. It's, I guess Newcastle has been, it says bike route, there's signs all down there. Fine, it just popped up. But anyway, come down Newcastle, but let's put some safety things in there. Let's not put class 1 trails and bridges into embedded neighborhoods. Thank you.
My name's Eugene Kuntz. I'm a frequent trail rider. I work at Apple, commute down to Cupertino through there sometimes, south from Mountain View. And I would like to speak in favor of the residential path trails as opposed to Mary and Grant and Foothill. I think those are very dangerous streets for anyone to ride bicycles, and so I'm opposed to that. I'd rather stay on the creek trail or on a residential street because it's a lot safer. The cars are going a lot slower, and it's just much safer. I encourage anybody who disagrees to try to ride on the trail compared to riding on Mary and see how stressed out it is in comparison to take Mary. So thanks, that's all.
Hi, my name's Todd Bergstrom. My parents moved to Cupertino in 1970. I was born in my home in 1979. I've lived there for 36 years. I live on Stokes Avenue, 3 houses down from Somerset Square Park, and I have for my entire life. And I don't understand this notion of a trail through a residential neighborhood. I think that the ship sailed 54 years ago in 1961 when we were surrounded by nothing but orchards in this community. That was the time to build the trail, not 2015. The existing infrastructure does not support this pie-in-the-sky notion of a open space preserve.
Land grab.
Yeah, I mean, it's Stokes Avenue is a street where people live. It's not meant to be a trail where people from 4 cities are going to be biking, hiking, walking in front of my house. I challenge anyone in this room, if you built a trail, a bike trail that takes one half of your street parking on your street, and you've got people from 4 cities walking, biking, hiking, whatever they're doing, in front of your house all day long, all day and all night long, without any recourse, I think you'd be pretty upset too. So think about your street. Think about your family. Think about your history in the community. I've been here as long as, well, my parents have been here longer than most of the people in here have been alive. And there's absolutely no reason for this at this point. There are plenty of places to bike, hike, and enjoy the wilderness. We've got Rancho San Antonio, we've got the Baylands. Put the bike on the back of your car, go enjoy the miles of trails out there. Not in my neighborhood, never.
Hi, good evening, and my name is Anand. I live in Cupertino on Stokes Avenue, right in front of Todd's house. I think the concept of calling, getting a trail through a living community area doesn't strike good. I used to live right next to the Guadalupe Parkway, right next to the trail. There's a nice parkway there, and on both sides of the waterway, you got a trail where you can run. And if you start from Gold Street all the way up to the airport and come back, that's 13 miles. So that's where I used to do my marathon running. And there are a lot of places to get onto the trail. You can park your cars in different spots. You can get up to the trail. You can run. You can bicycle. You can get into different spots. So that's the concept of a trail, and where you can really go. It's relaxation. You can run. You can bicycle. You can do that. Not through a street where you got people living and where you got cars parked. And I think that concept kind of sounds a little odd. So the study, when it looks at it, there's a nice creek there. If you want to build a trail, the creek is the right place to build a trail. It's not through living homes. Now that doesn't sound nice. Also, if you really look at the study, you got 2 existing paths. One on Mary, one on Foothill. And this is not halfway through. I don't know if you're going to see enough traffic to go through this. You're going to have three ways to go. So none of them are equally good options. But if you really want to look at a good option, I would stress that build it through the creek. Find a way to build it through the creek. Otherwise, there are, as Todd said, there are different places to go and ride your bike and have fun. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Li Xianmeng. I live in Cupertino. So I echo a lot of the speakers' concern that for the people that propose this trail, say it will get closer to nature, it will be safer, have a separation of bicycle and cars. But as you see in the map, and as the team already said, the private property is not on the plan. So basically, a good portion of this plan that will not close to nature. It will not close to the trail, to the creek itself. Basically, it's period. So it's a feasibility of closer to nature, and the separation of cars is already infeasible. And so the real proposal is really the connectivity between different parts of the city. But if you just want to connect to the different part of the city, you want to consider utilizing existing systems, right? There are many high-tech companies in this valley. You have software, you have hardware companies. When you deliver a product, when you have something that you want to improve, you build a new version of that based on the existing version. You're not always writing a new version, right? So if the Mary Bridge has some issues, then fix it, try to improve it, instead of building another bridge that will cause new problems. So I highly recommend people to consider to utilize the existing system. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Recht. I live in Sunnyvale on Belleville Way. I was thinking that maybe you should look at where Foothill Expressway goes under 280. I was thinking that maybe if the on-ramp and off-ramp were pushed southward, there might be room to put an overpass there over those on-ramps and off-ramps. I know it would probably cost quite a bit to do that, but maybe that'll be an option that would work, and then you can maybe use Foothill and Grant Road as the connection routes. I wouldn't call it a hiking and biking path, but it might be an alternative for a connecting route. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Kevin Jackson, a longtime Sunnyvale resident, just across the border. I served on the Citizens Task Force for the Mary Avenue Bike Ped Bridge that examined the concerns of nearby residents. And as with all projects of this type, there were some people who made many of the same objections that we've heard tonight. The fear of the unknown is definitely very powerful, but now you would have a hard time finding anyone who does not consider that bridge to be a very wonderful amenity. Those concerns should be taken seriously, of course, but they should be approached as challenges to be overcome, not as showstoppers. I would also strongly urge you to keep in mind one of the most important benefits of the trail, which is to provide a respite from the crush of traffic that intrudes into much of our lives these days. Sending trail users down a busy street like Stevens Creek Boulevard in mid-journey not only presents serious dangers to families with children, but also defeats the whole purpose of the trip, sort of like having a romantic dinner interrupted by a telephone solicitor. With open minds and a collaborative attitude, I am confident that we can have a trail that we will all be proud of and enjoy for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm from Mountain View, but I actually grew up in Cupertino schools, so I know this area very well. And I love this area, and I know how it can be better. So I'm also a doctor here, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about the health benefits of trails. Mayor McAllister has already heard my spiel about how obesity is killing us all, but the trail is used by so many people, so I wanted to get into that. We all understand the idea of a food desert nowadays where you can't find a piece of broccoli within 5 miles. To me, we have an active transit desert right now where, I try biking through Sunnyvale to get to my work in Santa Clara, and it's very, very scary, and I don't know how families are doing it, how kids can get to school. We have a desert, and we need to fix it, and I think, I agree with a lot of the people here, the best way to do that is to create a separated trail where you're not going to have cars with you on that trail. I think that's really important. So I wanted to tell you about what kind of people I see on the trail, because I'm on the trail every single weekend. So that trail in Stevens Creek is is really well utilized, I have to say. I see all those families that were already talked about, but on weekend mornings, all that team in training, I see obese people on there, and I think, oh, that's great, they're getting healthy. I see really old people with their little canes actually making it on the trail. And then if I'm there on a weekday morning, I see lots of tech workers. They actually use it for transit, so this is not just a recreational trail, and that's really key. So anyway, please support the trail. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Gil O'Hanna. I'm a resident of the Cherry Chase neighborhood of Sunnyvale, and I'm one of the obese people who uses the trail quite a bit, at least over the weekends, to walk to the Mountain View Farmers Market. I just want to make a couple of comments. First of all, the trail, the Dale Heatherstone Bridge and the entrance in that part of Mountain View, which is close to my house, has been a real asset to the Cherry Chase neighborhood, and we're looking forward to a trailhead perhaps at the end of Remington, which would be even closer to my house. We'd enjoy that very much. In terms of which alignment I prefer one of the straighter line alignments. I realize that goes through residential streets, but I think it'll also promote usage of the trail, which I think is a good thing. Finally, just one note, people have been probably following the development issues in Mountain View around the shoreline neighborhood, where there will be a lot of new employment, and I think the trail will be an increasingly important amenity for people doing bike commutes to that area, as now happens a lot to Google, and I think will happen increasingly in the future as employment in that area increases, and I know that's done wonderful things for house values in Cherry Chase, and I think it will do wonderful things for house values in Cupertino, provided there's good trail access to Cupertino as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Lawrence. I'm a resident of Sunnyvale. I'm a regular bike commuter, so I use the trail every day now for the last year, which has been awesome. I love the bridge, the Dale Bridge that takes us over from Sunnyvale onto the trail. It's great. I'm there every morning from anywhere between 6 and 9, and I see all kinds of people using the trail, kids going to school, runners. I think it's just an awesome thing, and I would love to see that extended further up the creek if possible. There are lots of colorful pictures that were drawn here with lots of different routes. I haven't figured it all out yet, but thank you for putting that up and putting that together. I really appreciate that. But I really do appreciate what has been done previously, so if you could continue that sort of theme, I think that would be really a great thing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Liu, and I live in Cupertino. Have been here for 9 years. I live on Vista Boulevard, close to Foothill Boulevard, actually. I support the trails concept. This concept is bring our city, make it greener, and then provide alternative ways for people to commute to work. I think that's wonderful. But I don't know I didn't have time to really study and, to speak well enough of the ramification of how the impact would be for the neighbors, immediate neighbors, and to our animals. I think that should be a concern as well. But what I do want to say is that I love biking, but I don't feel our city's main street, especially Foothill Boulevard, is a safe biking place. I wouldn't bring my kids. I don't even dare to walk there sometimes because of the traffic there. And not only the ramp going to 280, trucks, they speed. They just roll Foothill Boulevard every day, and I don't feel safe at all riding the bicycles on the side of a huge cement truck. So before we introduce more bicycle traffic and housing or pedestrian traffic as well to Foothill Boulevard, we should put some additional safety measurements and make the Foothill Boulevard a safe place for bikers, pedestrians and bicyclists, and that would be a responsible way to pursue as a starting point. Otherwise, it would be a false perception for the rest of the families that we can bike there, and that'll be a major correcting route. So that's all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dhananjay Joshi. I'm a resident of Cupertino. I stay very close to the Stevens Creek and one of the near Fallen Leaf. My perspective is that, more than anything, I would like to have a dedicated trail but I mean, it seems like it is not feasible in any of the alignments specified. So I think we shouldn't really try to pursue that, since I mean we are not going to get a like the best possible alternative. I mean, in terms of the next best alternative, I would prefer Bernardo Avenue as the trail alignment, or rather a bike path alignment, because Bernardo Avenue has 85 on one side. So on that side, you could probably have like a bike lane, and maybe it will be better. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Keenan. I am a relative newcomer to the area because I've only been here for 12 years compared to many people. I come from New England. And over these years, I have learned to become a commute bicyclist, and I commute to work every once in a while. I try once a week, maybe more during the summer, and I have learned over that time how to cross El Camino, Homestead, and Stevens Creek, and I'll say it's really dangerous to do all of those. I avoid places like Wolf Road, which I would love to ride down because that would be a direct path for me. So instead, I end up riding through people's communities. And I apologize to anybody who thinks that I'm looking in your windows. I'm actually just admiring your landscaping and your architecture. But what I'm really looking for in a trail is something that is different than my commute. That's something that is off the road, that doesn't interfere with traffic. So as it is, I'm also a long-distance runner occasionally, and I like to do a half marathon once in a while. So in order to train for that, I end up going to the Las Gatas Creek Trail instead, because there I can run a good half marathon without having to cross traffic, without having to deal with people backing out of their driveways and things like that. I also some of the things I appreciate about the Las Gatas Creek Trail are the occasional water stops and the occasional bathroom. So I just wanted to say that those are some of the things that I'm looking for in a trail, is some place where I can do a long distance run that's away from traffic. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Purvi Mehta. I live on Belleville Way. I live right opposite to West Valley Elementary School. You can ask me how the traffic is in the morning, because they are elementary students and parents do drop them. You will see more than 400 cars lined up in the morning, and I cannot even back up from my driveway. So I had to park my car outside to drop my daughter to middle school and high school. So there is no point. Belleville is going to be a bike trail. There will be a lot of accidents. It's very scary to think about Belleville because there is elementary school there, and you can't have a trail there. So, and it's very narrow road also. If you can go to Belleville, you can see how narrow road it is. Even backing up from my driveway on Belleville Way, I literally touch the other side of the road. So there's no way bikers or runners can run through Belleville Way. And there's elementary school too. We have to consider that. That is very important point. I do also like to walk. I go to Las Gatas Creek every Saturday morning. I like it because there is Vasana Park, there is a restroom, beautiful scene, and I love to have a trail extended, but that is up to you gentlemen and ladies, because you guys know better than me. And that is the feasible thing that we have to think that in future we have to reduce the cars, you know. I like to have biking and jogging and running. We can help environment to, you know, reduce our footprints, and for future generation we need really trail. But Belleville is not the option because it's very narrow. Unfortunately, I live on Belleville. I know how it is with elementary students, and there is YMCA daycare till 6 o'clock in the night. Kids throw the ball out of the fence. Sometimes they run out, take it, and trail is not the option. Thank you.
My name is Ed Broom. I live in Homestead Villa, Cupertino. I'd like people to raise their hand who are from Cupertino, who live in Cupertino. Now I'd like to keep your hand up if your first choice in a trail is the Mary Avenue Trail. Let the record show that Mary Avenue has it. And why? Why does Mary Avenue have it? As a Cupertino block leader, I represent 128 homes in Homestead Villa, a little cul-de-sac that you would change forever. 50 to 700 bikers a day means at least 15,000 strangers a year that would visit us and change our little community. We'd have to be a little more careful letting our kids out to play. Does anyone really have statistics on crime and homelessness along these trails? One of the streets you would be using for a trail abuts a freeway wall. It's been called Narrow Pass. This street has no sidewalks and is 21 feet wide. Mary is 80 feet wide, including 2 9-foot sidewalks. The sidewalks on Mary are as wide as our street. And the Mary Avenue Trail is almost complete. There's about a block that doesn't have a street sign for a bike from Dale and Heatherstone. 145 of our residents signed this petition that we gave to the Cupertino City Council 2 years ago. I crossed off one, he changed his mind, but I did leave his wife on it. He hasn't said he wanted his wife off. There's a big difference between what, am I up?
It's up.
Ooh, I got a couple more.
Time's up.
Okay. Mary Trail's it.
Hi, my name is Mark Srebnick. I'm a resident of Los Altos, right off Fremont Avenue, at the end towards Grant Road, a few streets just down from Grant Road. So I've lived there, my wife and I have lived there since '85, so it's quite a while. We've seen quite a transition in the character of Fremont Avenue since we've lived there. By that I mean the time before '85 opened. It was a very relatively quiet street. As soon as Highway 85 opened, all of a sudden it became a major arterial being used to connect people from, city to city who were wanting to make connections to 85 and then to other places. So huge increase in traffic once Highway 85 opened. The reason I bring that up is if you're thinking about the alignment along Fremont, since we exit our little cul-de-sac directly onto Fremont Avenue, we find that it's now a place we have to be very careful of getting, even with our cars, onto Fremont because of the traffic. And then when you add into that the fact that we already have bicycle riders riding down Fremont, at particular times of the day, the sun is such that it aligns parallel to Fremont. And if you don't have sunglasses on, the glare is pretty intense. And I kid you not, you can sometimes have like a blind spot where it's very hard to see a bike rider because they tend to zoom by crossing our street, Dallas Court, the entrance right onto Fremont. So there are a lot of aspects to this that are of concern to my wife and I, just on a pure safety level. The other thing that has struck me the more I listen and read about the project is that I'm starting to think there's some sort of major disconnect here between the name of the project being Stevens Creek Trail and the fact that most of the conversation is not about a trail, not about Stevens Creek, but whether or not it should be on this neighborhood street or that neighborhood street, whether it's a major street or a quiet residential street, et cetera, et cetera. Very little talk about Stevens Creek and a trail on it. So I'm thinking if that's really the nature of this project.
Time's up, sir.
I would just like you to change the name and be more honest about it. Thank you.
My name is Liz Udy, and I live in Cupertino. And I'm going to say two things here that will probably shock people. I really like my car. I drive in my car everywhere. And until recently, I never really heard of the Stevens Creek Trail. So the way it came to my knowing about it was I got a notice in the mail saying that this trail is going to go right in front of my house. I've lived there for 40 years. Mr. Paul, I'll direct this towards you since you're in Cupertino. After 40 years, I'm told I'll no longer be able to park in front of my driveway. It's the same thing as, my neighbors, and that's kind of what I'm hearing here. It's all about the people who are really immediately affected. We can't park in front of our houses anymore. We have no sidewalks, no problem. Sidewalks are going to be put in. We have no lights, no problem. Lights are going to be put in. Your neighborhood's going to be wonderful, when in fact we like our neighborhood the way it is. So I think that's the only thing I really have to say, is that I'm kind of satisfied with the way it is. It sounds like a wonderful trail. I think I will check it out. I know the Mid-Peninsula open spaces very well because I'm a hiker, but I'm disconcerted at the way this is being presented to the people who are being most affected. Thank you.
And just remind you about the ground rule about applause. Thank you.
That's okay, they won't be applauding for me.
I'm glad it didn't stop you from stepping up to the microphone.
My name's Maureen Schneider. I'm a 30-year resident of Cupertino. Been bike commuting for 25 years back when I was working. Now I'm home with my kids. I'm hearing a lot of course, as people have said, the best ideal situation would be to have a Stevens Creek Trail actually along the creek. And it seems that that's not really feasible, so there's other options being considered. I'm hearing from a lot of the people a lot of not in my backyard kind of stuff. They're concerned about bike paths going down their street. For safety reasons, what I'm concerned about is bike paths on major thoroughfares like Mary and Foothill and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of a friend that lives near Highway 9, Saratoga-Los Gatos Road, where I guess they have multiple fatalities there because of the speeds of the cars. And Foothill Expressway kind of strikes me as a similar kind of road. I've ridden there lots of times. The cars go really fast and they do veer into the bike lanes. For bike paths down neighborhood streets, I also think of Bryant Bike Boulevard in Palo Alto, where they've mitigated a lot of the issues of having bike paths and trails going down residential neighborhoods, so that might be something for you to consider or look at. I use the Stevens Creek Trail, just love it. It's really nice to be able to ride without cars being there. As I said, to me, just keep away from the major streets. Foothill, Mary, Grant Road. Even with Mary going out to Stevens Creek, I've ridden there to go home, where you go out to Stevens Creek and you have to cross freeway entrances, just like on Foothill crossing the freeway entrances. That's like the most dangerous thing, like the lady who got killed on Alpine Road by the freeway entrance. I think you really need to be keeping bike paths away from that. And I'm out of time. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Cassandra Linker, and I have lived in Cupertino for 43 years. I live on Barranca, and the creek runs behind our house. We actually own part of the creek for our property. This is going to sound personal, but to me it is very personal. Where we live, it's been quite a safe place to raise 5 children. I want it to stay that way for my grandchildren. I don't think that's selfish. The quietness of our neighborhood would forever be gone. You will have stole the peacefulness of our neighborhood. We've been coming to these meetings for 2 years, and it's always the same old, same old. It's like you feel like you need to voice something, but it won't matter. But I'm hoping you will listen. Over this 2 years, we've heard that 1,000 bikers would come through our neighborhood in one weekend. That came up at one meeting. Doesn't seem possible, but it came up. We want to stay right where we are. My husband and I are growing older, but we intend to live our life in our own home. But if you have all this traffic of unknown people who come down our street, will we feel safe in another 5, 10 years? Will we have to move into a home because we can't live in the home that we bought 43 years ago? It has no sidewalks, has no lights, but that's what we like, the rural aspect of it. It feels safe. There's only 2 ways in and 2 ways out. If you build the bridge, then we will have people coming. You'll have outhouses that came up at one meeting. What do you do then? They said they'd put outhouses, so I can just imagine that on my street. So just think about how you affect the residents that are living there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Matkovich, and I live in the Homestead Villa neighborhood with a number of my other neighbors that just spoke previously. I am also a longtime resident in this area. I grew up in Sunnyvale, went to all of the schools here. I have lived in Cupertino in the Homestead Villa neighborhood for the last 15 years. My kids are going to school in all of these lovely schools. We enjoy the safety and the quietness of our neighborhood. That was one of the draws for us to stay and live in this neighborhood. We're very concerned with our neighborhood being a thoroughfare for a number of bikes, walkers, people who we don't know. There's a lot of crime that has now started to encroach on our neighborhood, and we're all very concerned about that. We would like to keep our neighborhood peaceful, quiet, and safe. I'm concerned that my kids won't be able to play in the streets anymore. There's too many cars going by. I'm also concerned with what a trail would bring into our neighborhood, which is parking, additional parking that we won't have. I know that there will be people, because we've had it from the Chain Reaction Bike Shop up at the Foothill Crossing. We have people over at the Lucky's parking lot parking bikes for their bike trail, or parking cars for their bike trail rides. We've had it in our neighborhood, and it concerns me that we're going to be losing 2 major areas for on-street parking for our residents, and we're going to have an influx of people coming into our neighborhood because there's going to be lots of people nearby who want to join the trail right there. I'm very concerned by this. It's going to become a thoroughfare. Again, safety is a concern, maintenance is a concern, the things that are going to happen to our neighbors being with amenities taken away from them because they won't be able to park in front of their own homes, things that will be impacting all of the rest of our neighborhood. So I'd like to encourage you to really think about what you would be doing to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Durham, City of Sunnyvale. I'm on the Planning Commission there, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. There will be no conflict of interest. I'll be off the Planning Commission when this is brought forward. First, let me thank everyone who was involved with this for the hard work on this document. Having served in 3 commissions in Sunnyvale, I have a vague idea of just how difficult a task this is to bring all these documents and people together to come up with those plans here, and going forward there's even more hard work. Second, we are once again at a crossroads for this project. A great opportunity was missed over a decade ago by Sunnyvale and the cities other than Mountain View to leave a legacy for future generations and residents. Here we are again. The same decision looms before us, yet the cost is greater, but the need is so much greater still. This represents so many things that will make our city and lives better. The recreational advantages of having a Class 1 trail dwarf the costs, in my opinion. The more of this trail we can turn into separated use, the better for everyone. I don't use trails that much when I cycle around. I am a bike commuter, so I spend a fair amount of time on the roads. They don't head to the places I'm usually heading. When I do, I can't help but notice how many different types of users there are. This is especially true for families with children. The option expressed by one group to have the trail but limit it to existing roadways because the cost is inherently destructive use of the trail. How many people, families with children, do you see using bike lanes on Fremont, Remington, and Mary? Turning Mary into the trail is not the answer. You won't have people using that That number approaches 0. There are plenty of recreational users out on existing trails, cyclists commuting early, joggers, older people midday walking on them, families pushing strollers with children on scooters, skateboards, and bikes. They are availing themselves of a recreational asset and are kept from harm's way.
Time's up, sir.
Thank you.
Robert Sloan from Sunnyvale. I've got some specific suggestions to the proposal. Number one, the use of the open space. We have very little open space left, and the open space on either side of 280, that's the water district land, if that could be utilized, that would be wonderful. If you put the bridge over in that location, from there to Stevens Creek, the railway track has at least 30 feet from the railway track to the edge that could be easily utilized there and avoid the residential areas. The other suggestion I have is on Bernardo, if that is to be utilized, instead of a large planted area, perhaps a very thin barrier between traffic could be utilized. There's at least 3 feet between the wall of dirt already. In some places it's 6 feet there. If a thin wall is used, then that could be better utilized and not necessarily end up with a one-way street. The other thing is that if we split up the trail at the pinch point, and that is let it split off to Fremont Avenue at 85 along Fremont Avenue, and also to split it another direction, that might have less impact on our neighborhoods. I want to encourage you deeply to work before that medical center is finished to negotiate for their property by the creek, their parking lot behind that. The time is of the essence. And Darcy Paul also in that, it's not on the list, but there's a potential building is going to go up on the Deep Cliff Golf Course between there and Linda Vista, which is the natural progression of the trail. Time is of the essence, I think, there to make sure that that road on the golf course could be utilized. Mountain View's done their piece. It's our chance to leave a living legacy. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Shri Valkoviak. I'm a Mountain View resident for 14 years, and my husband works at Apple Computers. And he sometimes bicycles to work, but really, he's a pretty brave dude, but he finds it pretty hair-raising, so he doesn't do that very often. I personally bike most everywhere with my kids. I have a 7- and 9-year-old. And so I would, what I'm hearing is that it's not feasible to have a trail along the creek, which is unfortunate. If that is true, I would highly suggest on the streets making it using protected bike lanes where you actually separate the cyclists from the motor vehicles by either elevating the bike lane so it's like in between the sidewalk and the road, or putting a curb or parked cars or something, and also using protected intersections so that the bike lane doesn't die at the intersection, and especially at like overcrossings or of the freeways, separate it somehow physically with maybe a trail over that winds over there. But really, my preferred alignment would be to stay along the trail. And I actually have a challenge for you, which is, as a couple people have said, this is going to affect the quality of life for generations to come. So my challenge is to be bold and to create a safe trail from Mountain View's Bay Trail to Cupertino's Ridge Trail, which is appropriate to its intended users, which are cyclists, pedestrians, people walking their dogs, old people, children, families. And the way I would judge a successful trail or route is by 2 criteria. First, is it safe enough for our kids? And is it appealing? And by safety, like I was saying with the protected bike lanes, a stripe of paint is not safe. A physical barrier would be safe to me. As for appealing, being a Mountain View resident, I get to reap the benefits of the Stevens Creek Trail, which is so natural and beautiful, and the wind just kind of clears out your brain. So that would be appealing. Thank you.
My name is Tom Mayer. I'm a Cupertino resident. Let's see,
a lot of people that have talked tonight have talked about how nice the Mountain View Trail is, and it really is a nice trail, and it gets a lot of use, and it's a pleasant place to be. The feasibility study doesn't offer us a trail like that. At best, it offers us a trail along a residential street with driveways for people to back into. It's not a safe place for kids. I think what we need to do is, rather than building expensive bridges or underpasses, we need to use that money wisely and improve all of the bike trails that we have and use this as a feeder to the existing Stevens Creek Trail. Extend it where you can, but give people the real trail they want where you can. I'm a bicycle commuter. I have a direct shot down the Stevens Creek Trail. I don't take the trail. I don't think it's safe for people commuting at high speeds and people walking their dogs with baby strollers. I think we need to improve the bike trails for faster riders to keep them off that nice multi-use trail. Thank you.
Good evening, John Cordes, resident of Sunnyvale Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee member, speaking for myself. I bicycle most of these routes. I'm a long distance bike rider for recreational purposes, and I also use the Stevens Creek Trail to bike commute between my work in Palo Alto and my home in Sunnyvale. I want to answer kind of the questions you put up here about preferred trail alignments. So I like both the Bernardo route and the Fawn Leaf route. I use both those when I get to this part of the trail and I have to divert to surface streets. I find both of those routes the more friendly. I agree with everybody that spoke so far about we need to get to level 1, class 1 bike lanes where they're protected. And we seem to have room on both Bernardo and Fawn Leaf to make that happen. I'm hoping this is the beginning of a discussion about how this spreads out from here, not how we come up with just one solution. This to me is the beginning of the discussion of how the bike lanes expand from here to reach all the places that they don't reach today, not just let's pick one alternative and that's the end of the discussion and we're not going to talk about it for another 20 years, because we're all hoping that we're going to have a lot more biking opportunities 20 years from now, not just this one. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jean Stein, and I've been a Sunnyvale resident for about 40 years. And first, I'd like to say, after sitting here for a couple hours listening to everybody, this isn't about a trail. This is about a bike path. And if we're really looking for something that meets the needs of everybody, we need to look at more than just bikes. I think that the options for Bellevue and Bernardo are not good because of the fact that they're schools. And I've been there picking up kids, and it's very challenging when school's coming on and off. So I don't think those are good options at all. I think places like Fallen Leaf and Stokes, I think those are residential areas, and all we're going to do is take out beautiful trees and lawns and put in concrete. The environment needs to breathe. It can't breathe with all the concrete. So I don't think that's a very good option to use at all. I think you can focus on the Mary Avenue and the Current Bridge. Somebody said it's very busy from 6 to 9. I guess I'm not there at 6 to 9. I walk that at least every day over to the dog park in Cupertino from Sunnyvale. And I rarely, this morning I actually counted it, I only went by 4 bikes. Everybody else was walking. There were some people out walking, but it really isn't being used that much for bikes, at least in the non-commute hours. And that's all I can address because I don't usually go on the commute hours. I'd also like to say that my suggestion would be, like a lot of other people have said, that you really want to focus on staying near the creek. Like everyone talked about the Los Gatos Trail. It's beautiful. It's by the creeks. It's a little scary sometimes when the rollerblader people are coming close to us, but it's a nice place to go. And in conclusion, what I'd like to say, anybody that thinks that they should put another bridge over 280 should drive down Homestead, take a left turn onto Kimberly, go all the way down to the end of Kimberly, take another left onto Pocatello, and look what the bridge has done for those neighbors. You talk about values that went down, they really went down. I tried several years ago not to get the bridge, and that was the reason. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Peters. I've lived in Los Altos for the last 26 years. I've also lived in Mountain View for many years since the early 1970s. I think we have to keep in mind what our priorities are, and that the goal shouldn't be to have a contiguous bike quote, trail or bike path that doesn't meet everybody's needs. And it's not that, to me, it's not that important to have a contiguous trail. It's to meet what the people who live in the area need. I'm specifically interested in the Fallen Leaf Lane area. Fallen Leaf Lane is not a straight street. It's very windy. It has little cul-de-sacs here and there off of it. People are marking their yards now to show what would happen to make it even wide enough to do what they're going to have to put in concrete. They're going to cut out a whole bunch of trees. We don't have sidewalks in our neighborhood, and a lot of us walk. But it's a nice, peaceful, quiet thing. It just isn't the right place for this. And again, back to the original goals, I don't see that it's really so important to have one contiguous trail or path down concrete to the ocean. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Andrew Schneider. I've been living in Cupertino for over 30 years. I'm a bicyclist. I commute to work. I used to commute down to the Moffett Park area on Stevens Creek Trail, and I really appreciated what Mountain View did by putting the trail in. From the time I got on the trail to the time I got off on the other side of 101, I did not have to worry about getting run over. What I hear tonight is that there's no trail going to be going through Sunnyvale or Cupertino for various reasons. Putting the trail as bike lanes on roads is not a trail. I ride on those roads all the time. Putting it as a separated bike lane does not work either, because unless you can get your street sweeper into that area, it's going to build up with broken glass and other things that will flatten our tires. If we can't have it along the trail today, one of the previous speakers talked about doing long-term planning and starting to, as people turn over properties, they can be bought with eminent domain. People are saying, well, these roads, these trails don't service us, they service people at either end. That's the same with any road, any railroad. It does serve the greater good. It might not serve the people in the immediate neighborhood. If we can't get space along the trail today, I would say get eminent domain, get the trail alignments that way. A trail that's on a road is not a trail.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Klinkowski. My husband and I have been Cupertino residents and voters for the last 40 years. We live on Farlap Drive, which is one of the residential streets under consideration. Now, my choice is not Farlap Drive, and there are many reasons, one of which is safety. There are a number of driveways and where people are backing out constantly. If that route is used, it would require a bridge over 280, and I've heard an estimate of $15 million to build a bridge there. Now, I would think that a small portion of that money could be used to go where the infrastructure is on Mary, where there's a beautiful bridge, and maybe $2 or $3 million could be used to make Mary a very safe and convenient route, and that would be my preference. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Craig Hofstetter. I'm a Cupertino resident and a member of the Citizens for Responsible Trails. I love the Stevens Creek Trail. I use the Mountain View and Cupertino portions all the time, and I definitely want to see the trail completed. And if even one of the current route options provided the same benefits as the existing trail, then we wouldn't be sitting here tonight. The decision would be very, very easy. But that's not the case. The reality is that regardless of which option we choose, this segment is going to be built primarily along city streets. City streets. City streets have moving cars and parked cars, garbage cans and garbage trucks, noisy lawnmowers and barking dogs, and lots of people, and that's just the way that it is. And unfortunate though it may be, the irrefutable fact is that this segment is not going to provide the same benefits or experience that either Mountain View or Cupertino do. What we need now is serious dialogue on a route evaluation selection strategy that maximizes trail benefits under these less than optimal conditions. Now, the Citizens for Responsible Trails has developed a route evaluation strategy to facilitate this. But regardless of whether you agree with us or not, what is crucial here is that we all understand the reality of what this trail segment can be and what it will never be. Thank you.
Roy Hampton. I've been a resident since 1974 with my wife on Oakview Lane and Man Drive. If there was a contest who's been here the longest, we might be some of the last standing, I don't know. But so we've seen many changes take place, and the developments of the trails that are true trails, as the previous speaker said. I really enjoy those. Stevens Creek Corridor was wonderful. We've been supportive of that. Putting a trail, which is really a bike lane, down Man Drive next to my house is not really a trail. 2 weeks ago at 10 a.m., I heard a crash. My son-in-law, my daughter's family is living with us. We have 2 grandchildren living with us. And what happened is my son-in-law was parked on Man Drive right next to the intersection of Oakview Lane, where he always parks, has been for almost a year. And the crash was someone speeding down Man Drive, looking at their cell phone, crashed into his car and totaled it. It's a residential street, but it's still a street. All streets are dangerous. People going in and out of driveways, it can be dangerous to people going in and out and the ones going by in front of the driveway. I'm kind of humped. I want to say a lot of things, not much time. I'm not used to doing this. But there is risk in all neighborhoods. Take the money that you would put on a bridge, put it over on Mary Avenue, and give a safe area for the people that want to ride their bicycles on Mary and not tangle with cars. Give them a safe venue that's separate. It can surely be done somehow. Use the bridge. Use the existing infrastructure. I agree with the previous speaker. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Eschelbeck, and I'm a resident of Cupertino. I wanted to make one point really clear. There is no really trail solution possible in Cupertino. There is a wonderful trail along Stevens Creek in that segment, but the remaining, the open, connection, there is no trail solution possible. There is no public land possible. Everything is residential. It's a residential neighborhood. And so the designation as a trail is not possible. I've heard this a couple of times with some previous comments, to keep it along, Stevens Creek as much as possible. But, this in this segment, it's just not an option. So we should not compare that section to the Mountain View segment, into the bay, and also to the finished Cupertino section. But what I wanted to bring up is there is another trail completed, it's the San Tomas Aquino Saratoga Trail. And it also had sections which, were not, where it was not possible to run along, the creek. And it has sections, on street, which were, divided. And there is even a section along San Tomas Expressway, which is an expressway, with high speed, but it's separated. It's separated and secured. I think a similar solution can be found for either Foothill, for Mary, for any of the existing ones, any of the existing streets. So to kind of connect the trail section and give the people an opportunity to kind of access the trails in those segments where a trail solution is just not possible. Thank you.
Can I talk? Hi, I'm Brian. I live in Los Altos, resident going on 2 years now. And one of the reasons I bought into the neighborhood is because it's very quiet and rural. I like that there's no street lights. I like that there's no sidewalks. And that's why I purposefully bought in there. So as you can imagine, I'm in agreement with a lot of the people that are, the not in my backyard types. But just to share a little bit of insight, I live off of Fallen Leaf, or in a cul-de-sac off of Fallen Leaf. And one of the objectives, I think, of the second segment is to connect Fremont to Grant. And even now, trying to get from my house using Fallen Leaf to Grant, it is confusing. If you actually follow Fallen Leaf straight, you'll end up in a dead end. If you know how to get there via the route that's posted back there, you have to actually go down to the left and then straight and then up, and there's elevation changes. It's really awkward. And as a software engineer, the number one principle that's always served me well is high cohesion and low coupling. And irrespective of, I think, my opinion, because it's in my backyard, this whole plan just doesn't make any sense to me. To try to run a trail that's got heavy bike and pedestrian traffic through a neighborhood that a resident can't even, find his way through without knowing the path, it just really doesn't make any sense. And I just thought I'd come up here and share that with you. Thanks.
My name is Ginger Walnick. I've lived in Sunnyvale since 1982, and twice I've served in the past on the City of Sunnyvale Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I hate using an old cliche, but it's been almost 50 years since we were able to put a man on the moon, so I think we should be able to get a bicycle through Stevens Creek. And another cliche is, if they were able to build a transcontinental railroad over the Sierras in the mid-19th century, we should be able to build a bike trail down Stevens Creek. We're the heart of the most high-tech part of the world, and also some of the wealthiest companies in the world are ironically straddling the either ends of this trail we're trying to build. I can't believe we can't apply. I won't accept that it's infeasible to build the trail along the creek. We may have to use eminent domain. It may be long-term and take another generation to eventually buy out the properties. But to me, that's the only real long-term right solution. The other thing is, why can't we use technology to apply cantilevering to get through some of the narrow parts of that creek? And I believe it can be done environmentally without disturbing, it can be restored when they're done so that the banks are secure from erosion. But cantilevers were used to build the railroad over the Sierras. And we're talking about a much narrower and lighter load here. So, thank you.
Hello, I'm Cliff Reinhardt, resident of Los Altos for 30-plus years, and prior to that, a resident of Mountain View, and even used Shoreline Park as a dump when it was still a dump. Stevens Creek Trail between Mountain View and Shoreline Park is beautiful. I've used it myself. Unfortunately, Sunnyvale and Los Altos, Cupertino did not plan ahead, and most of the property is residential and private. To even take it eminent domain would be extremely expensive. So I would like to see a trail, but using bike lanes and putting a trail through residential area eliminates one of the criteria that the FOCT has talked about, and that is safety. We have people backing out going to work. You have bicyclists that travel down streets rather rapidly. I have ridden my bike to work, and I don't have a trail to ride to get to work. And it can be hazardous, especially when people are backing out. So I think if we pursue the idea of a trail, we should be putting them where they already have bike trails, and where the streets are, or the driveways are such that it's expected and you can see it at a great distance, people backing out. which is not Fallen Leaf or any of the residential streets in Los Altos. So I think we should focus on safety and not just trying to get from point A to point B. And another option is just say, okay, here's the end of this section of the trail. The other section is on Homestead Road. You figure out how to get there, and that would separate the bicyclist to a bunch of different routes and not make it all one more hazardous destination.
I'm Ben Stetson. I live on Belleville in Sunnyvale for 29 years. I agree with the vast majority of the previous speakers who oppose forcing a fake trail through existing neighborhoods and disrupting them. Now, sometimes in modern society, it's unavoidable to disrupt the few for the benefit of the many, new highways, hospitals, schools. But this is not that case. This is disrupting the many for the benefit of the few. In my neighborhood, it's a very well-defined neighborhood, so it's very easy to count. There are 357 houses, 170 apartments. That makes 527 residences. If you assume an average of 2 people per residence, just the average 2, then you add to that 650 students that attend West Valley School. That's a total of 1,700 people who depend on Belleville as the only vehicular access to get home or to get to school. That's the only way in or out is Belleville. And this will impact all of those people by taking away parking on one side of a street that's a mile long. Now, ask yourself, how many people will use the trail? Not everywhere, not in the pretty places, but in the spots between Fremont and Homestead, because those are the limits how we counted the residences, okay? If you count the trips, the numbers are even more staggering. 1,050 residents times 2 round trips a day times 7 days a week, 50 weeks a year, 650 students, 1 round trip per 181 school days, you come up with over 850,000 trips in 1 year. How many trips on the bike trail? Considered the most vocal advocate for completing the trail, recently said that he and his family uses the trail quote, a few times a month, not daily, not weekly.
Time's up, sir.
Thank you.
Brenda Visas, Los Altos, California. At the Sunnyvale meeting, we had asked about the cost of the feasibility study, and I was wondering if you had that for us this evening.
We do. Does Kent have that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, Yvonne Margaretich. I grew up in Cupertino near Blackberry Farm and played in the creek when I was a kid. I lived in Los Altos the last 8 years with my family, and without having a trail, bike lane, or sign in my neighborhood down Fawn Leaf, I know how to get to it. I run all the way to the bay for half marathon training from my house the last 6 years, even though I might not look the part. I love the trail. I feel any streets used should be called Stevens Creek Road Connector. Trails should be called Stevens Creek Trail. One preferred alignment in Los Altos is Fremont, Grant Road, Foothill, Stevens Creek connecting to Blackberry Farm. With this alignment, there's enough space on the roads to include space for bikes, pedestrians, minimize impact on residential streets. It would also connect to Rancho San Antonio. I strongly urge smaller streets in the neighborhoods between Fremont and Homestead be eliminated from the study. Another preferred route between Fremont and Stevens Creek would be the Mary Avenue connection with the bridge and over to Stevens Creek. What's important to me about the above alignments is that minimal impact on quiet residential streets. The bridge could be used, and for those that say Foothill would not be a trail experience, you're right. Neither are the sections of the existing Stevens Creek Trail that run side by side with 85. The feasibility study provides a safe division of cars versus bikes and walkers, and that could be built on Foothill, which was built in Mountain View. For the benefit of all cities involved, I prefer and recommend multiple ways to connect Mountain View to Blackberry Farm, not just one. And since this is a draft feasibility study, I recommend streets like Fallen Leaf Lane, Newcastle, Belleville, and Bernardo near Cupertino be eliminated from the report before it comes to a vote before the city councils. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Susan Bremen. I'm a Sunnyvale resident, have lived there for 20 years and in the Bay Area most of my life. I think one of the concerns I've had in listening to people over the last 2+ hours is the fact of the naming of this particular study. I would like to quote from the study goals. On page 13, the Stevens Creek Trail provides a completely separated pathway for the exclusive use of bicyclists and pedestrians with minimal roadway crossings. The trail serves a wide range of ability levels and is especially suitable for younger and less experienced cyclists. Any extension of the trail must strive to offer a similar trail experience. So the discussions about the roads this evening, I think, are not appropriate. I think we need to consider getting off the roads on the creeks. My experience in being a cyclist here for the last 30 years, cycling on Foothill, I've seen the traffic increase to such an extent that I basically fear for my life every time I get on the roads, although I rode my bike here today because I'm a strong advocate of riding. But I really totally believe that we need to make this safe for everyone. In the future, we will have nothing but an increase in population, making it more and more important. In addition, Rancho was mentioned. Rancho has a huge number of people that are going there now, daily, weekends. So I'm there all the time. And the reason is because people are looking for space off of the urban setting. And having an actual trail for people to be on is so, so important. My taxpayer money, I want to go to this. I absolutely feel it is the best way for me to be spending my money. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angela Huang, and I'm a Sunnyvale resident. I heard people enjoy actual trail. There is none in this connection. They are all street. Since there are no actual trail, how can you be sure that residential streets are safer than Mary if people do not follow traffic rule? There are schools on Bernardo and Belleville. How are our students' safety? I heard people enjoy nature. Since no quick view is available from South Bernardo Avenue along the Highway 85 sun wall, Bill Tater suggests a full-size mural could be painted on Bernardo brick wall. That is what you so-called nature. I have nothing to say. Making Bernardo one-way street or remove the only street parking create a major traffic and safety problem to our neighborhood. I'm disappointed that the Friends of Stevenson Creek Trail do not want to disturb the creek and the surrounding, but they have no problem disturbing the resident of the neighborhood on the proposed trail connection. I heard that people like a friendly trail, so imagine bike trail celebration. If there's a trail celebration, there are over 200 and 300 people by coming through the residential street. The disturbing will cause negative impression. But if it's on Mary, the street can handle the volume of people, and bikers are welcome because business opportunity. To disregard the impact on the resident, the school traffic, the safety in the neighborhood, and the cost of building 2 overpass, ramp plus the new bridge, it is very irresponsible. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carla Crowley. I'm a Los Altos resident. I was a Sunnyvale resident prior to that. I did previously go to the other meeting, and I mentioned that I think fiscal responsibility was very important to me, and so to using existing infrastructure is important. But I wanted to bring up a different point. And I hope you'll consider that in 2008, Los Altos did do a feasibility study and assessed what would be the best route for Los Altos and what our city plans are and the route. And they did a pretty extensive study. I believe Los Altos does a pretty good job with what they do. And they evaluated safety for the trail users, accessibility, environmental impact, connections to key destinations, traffic impacts, trail environment, neighborhood impact, homeowner security, opportunities for multi-user groups, directness of route, public support, and the timing. And the recommended preferred route they presented was Grant Road. And if they feel that they could make that safe, I believe that they could make that safe. And I hope if you choose a Los Altos recommendation that you'll take into account all the work and the money that they put into doing that feasibility study. I think secondly, I do want to make kind of a note, and not just for Los Altos, but for all the cities. The residential areas, I kind of feel I was envisioning how beautiful it is to ride a bike under a tree-lined, street with my kids, and how fun that it feels, and it does feel great. But, I'm hearing there's like 700 users in the Mountain View area on the trail, and 200 in Cupertino, and over 1,000 towards the bay. I think making that connector, you're going to have 500 to 700 people now, and in the future, hopefully more bikers as we get more environmentally friendly. And I'm wondering how that's going to have that feel with 700 bikers. So just please keep that in mind that, I think what you're looking for, it may not be once you build that connector. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Byron Ravagno, and I've been a resident of Cupertino for over 30 years, and in Mountain View before that. I use the Stevens Creek Trail sometimes. I'm an avid cyclist, long distance, and it is a great way to get to Palo Alto Airport, say, if you want to not have to cross traffic. The contemplated alternatives here all cross traffic, and not just at intersections, but at driveways and everywhere else. It seems to me that using existing infrastructure does make sense, but it seems to me that the existing infrastructure hasn't been considered. For instance, the majority of the existing trail runs underneath the power lines. Well, the power lines go all the way up to Permanente up here. So it seems to me that there is a right-of-way that maybe hasn't been looked at. In addition to that, there's the Union Pacific Railroad easement, and that would certainly offer an opportunity to have a trail experience. And the main problem is getting from where it is now to the other side of the freeway. And using the Mary Avenue Bridge is really out of the way. You'd have to build another bridge over 85 then to get back over to Stevens Creek. So that doesn't seem like a too feasible way to go. But I have actually ridden on a trail that was a separated trail that was along a freeway in the Pacific Northwest that was adjacent to the sound wall, actually on the freeway side. And it wasn't a wonderful trail experience, but it segregated the bicycles from the car traffic, and that's an objective along with having a wildlife experience at some point. And I think once you get past Blackberry Farm and up there, you could do that. But if we were just to get across the freeway and get on the Union Pacific Railroad, we could go all the way up to San Antonio Park. We could go over the backside and get some land from the people that are running those plants up there and put people down into the park, let them do a little climbing and a little descending. And that would seem to me to solve the problem and make the residents not have to worry about backing out of their driveways. That would be a problem for me, I know. Thank you.
You'll see that the iPad is given out on us, so we're moving over to another Apple product, to the iPhone. And the screen, of course, is a little smaller, so just bear with us.
Okay. Well, I was going to wait for the screen. I can go ahead and start. Thanks. My name is Chris Hansen, and I'm from, I live in Los Altos. And I wanted to bring up an issue in Chapter 1 of the report. This isn't exactly a focus question, but it is related to the report in general. And that has to do with the section where it reads the history of the Stevens Creek Park train concept, 1961, County of Santa Clara Planning Department. And it says, and it starts off here, and this has been referenced by other folks, and it's been referenced numerous times by many individuals on this project. And it says that basically in 1961, the County of Santa Clara Planning Department prepared the first plan for the Stevens Creek Park chain, and goes on to talk about how they plan to protect the creek and envision creeks be preserved in their natural state and augmented by parks and other public open spaces and so forth. And this idea that a creek chain, one could walk, cycle, or horseback ride for long distances, protected from automobile traffic and so forth, 1961 was when this was written. The problem here is that in 1961, the creek property in Cupertino and Los Altos had already been developed. And so this entire process has been misleading to the public and to many people in somehow creating this illusion that there was this time when this had been all invented and the creek was available, and if only people had been wise and planned, they could have built this.
Time, sure.
I'm 42 seconds here. And it's all misleading and it's all untrue. And so I think what we have to do at this point is that we have to do the best thing that we can given where we are, and that is to follow recommendations such as what the Citizens for Responsible Trails have done and use existing infrastructure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophia, and I'm a Cupertino resident. I'm also a member of this future generation that everyone keeps on referencing. So as a member of this generation, I plead for fiscal responsibility. We have all understood that with this study, that a trail is not possible. But please do not destroy our neighborhoods. Leave the peace you all enjoyed for us and for future generations to enjoy. I'm advocating for the expansion of existing infrastructure as it is the only responsible and feasible solution to create a route, not a trail, we all understand that at this point, to serve what the population needs. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Steve Ellich. I'm a Cupertino resident. I've been living in Cupertino since I delivered the Cupertino Courier back when they had newspaper boys. So been here a long time. I did want to mention that I am with the Citizens for Responsible Trails, and Craig referenced our report earlier in terms of a framework for evaluating the various route options. I encourage the folks in the audience to read that report and become familiar with it. I think that there seems to be this notion that there's a pro-trail and an anti-trail sentiment, and it's sort of like who's going to battle it out and win, when I think most people are just for responsible trails. And what I mean by that is most of the supporters seem to indicate that a trail means that you go there for recreation. You get out of the urban landscape and you're in recreation, and use your car for everything else because it's so dangerous out there, you'd be crazy to use a bike. We think that that's a fallacy, and we want more, if we really want a more human and breathable community, we should bring the trail out of the shadows of the creek and into the daylight of everyday activity. If we're going to spend $40 million on a trail extension, why not make the trail accessible by making more connections in the local community such that people can use it for other things other than recreation? They can use it for going to the store, going to work, going to school, recreation without having to be just in nature, but just going to a friend's house. So our key recommendations are to breathe life into existing infrastructure, leverage adjacent opportunities like the Expressways 2040 plan, the Mary Street Space Allocation Project, and the various city bike plans. And finally, maximize positive externalities and look beyond traditional trail uses for other uses that are in everyday life. Thank you very much.
I guess I'm last. My name is... You are last?
Yes,
Okay.
so go.
All right. I'm Colin Theodore. I'm a resident of Cupertino. I live in the Madeira Farlap Drive area, and I am not a favor of the trail being along residential streets for many of the reasons that people have talked about already. One point I would like to make is we're here talking about a Stevens Creek Trail. I look at what was done in Mountain View, and that is a great trail. It was exactly what we wanted in terms of a trail. It took a long time, it was expensive, and it was hard. But what we got a trail that we wanted. Now, we're talking about going through residential areas and going through streets in Cupertino and in Los Altos. Let's do it the same way as what was done in Mountain View. Let's not compromise by taking it along residential streets and calling it a trail. It's not going to be easy, it's going to be hard, and we may not be able to do it. If we can't do it, then let's don't do it. So I would challenge you to come up with a solution that's as good as what you have in Mountain View, or don't do anything at all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Jeffers. I feel honored to be in front of all of you and allow everybody in this room to say their piece so they can have their words be heard by everybody. I think it's a great thing that we have. It's called the United States of America, and it allows us to speak our minds. Thank you. Council people, all four of you, and mayors, vice mayors, and everybody, thank you for giving your time up at this time for about 2.5 hours. Thank you for everybody here for giving your input. I'm glad you all came. This is the best output I've ever seen in any opportunity. I've been to council meetings before when it was me and the council, practically. This is great. Unfortunately, it has something to do with your pocketbook, and it has something to do with your yard. And let's see, they took the front yard, Cupertino took the front yard of all our front, between the sidewalk and the street. Now, technically, that's city property. I didn't know that. Anywhere from the sidewalk this way is city property. We fertilized it, we watered it, we made it look pretty. We got gophers there now. It's brown as ever. It's a drought. We all know this. Another thing, San Antonio Park is not specifically designed for bicycles, but bicycles use it anyways. Technically, they could be all given tickets for being up there in the first place, for ruining the habitat up there, all the way up to wherever the PG&E goes.
Time's up, sir.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. But I'm glad you all came.
Okay.
So with no other speakers, let me just hit some highlights in terms of a summary, and some of you have already done that, actually done a very nice job of doing that. And these are themes that we heard tonight, and by no means are these themes fully shared. Keep the trail as close to the creek alignment and open space as much as possible, if possible. There are a few comments that about eminent domain and so forth, the one woman's comment, off the roads near the creek. That raised the question of the trail versus a bike path or bike lane and making those two distinct. The corollary to that was keep the trail off city and residential streets as much as possible, if possible. Reasons given for that were, main reason was around safety, driveways, backing out of driveways, disruptions to the neighborhood, congestion, traffic, parking, and privacy as well. And the key theme coming out of that was minimize the impacts to the neighborhood. Another major theme tonight, use existing infrastructure and upgrade existing infrastructure, such as using the Mary Street Bridge, existing bike lanes, using protected bike lanes, upgrade the bike lanes for protected bike lanes. And one of the major reasons we heard around that was cost and the desire to be physically conservative, responsible, I should say. And we heard along those lines, no new bridge. We did hear fairly strong theme on completing the trail extension, and that seemed to be shared by a lot of speakers regardless of their particular position on the trail preferences, bike paths, et cetera, existing infrastructure, and a lot of that had to do with the benefits of the trail. We heard about health, we heard about commuting on the trail, and of course we heard about recreation. So that in no way, shape, or form captures all the complexity and nuances of what we heard tonight, but it does capture some of the major themes that came through this evening. So we're just about out of time, but there was a question that was asked earlier about the cost of the feasibility study, and that question also came up at the Sunnyvale meeting, and staff was not prepared to answer at that time, but I believe they are prepared to answer that question tonight.
Thank you, Sean. The cost of the feasibility study report, including the last couple of years of outreach meetings, is approximately $187,000. Part of that was funded by grants from the Valley Transportation Authority, and the balance was paid, shared between the four cities, with actually Sunnyvale paying the greatest share because we had the longest segments that were incomplete.
Okay, anybody have any quick questions? I know we're out of time here. Go ahead, Ed.
I had one on the
use the mic.
On the call-in, or on the iPhone in, when you put an opinion on the website, yes. Are you required to put your name and address?
Yeah. So the question was, when you add comments to the website, do you have to put your name and address? And the answer is no. We'll take comments from anybody. We do encourage you to put your name and jurisdiction. The other thing is, for privacy purposes, we're not going to include anybody who leaves their email address or phone number as part of the comments. All the comments that are made to the website in writing will be included in the final study report. And so we didn't want to attempt to try to translate people's comments. We wanted to get them in writing so that they could be included, and all the elected officials who make final decisions will get that packet that includes your written comments.
And so just to remind you and how important it is for you to provide those comments, on that handout is the actual email address there. And of course, also is the URL to get the feasibility study. But it's really important that you provide the written comments to that email address, and just what Kent was saying, those comments will be included, as it says here, they will be included in the final report as an attachment, all the comments that come in. A question back here.
Yeah, is this available online? This document available online? As a PDF?
This is the handout that has the URL and the email address and the process.
If you go to the project website, which is SCT Feasibility Study in Sunnyvale.com, I think, you'll find the notice of future meetings, It does include the process map that's on this handout, and it includes links to where you can make written comments on the feasibility report, as well as the entire feasibility report can be downloaded as a PDF.
And so that there are copies on the table, right outside on the right-hand table as you leave here today. And again, the process map is on the back, and I just put up on the screen, there's the next town hall meeting is next Monday evening. It's in Mountain View at the Mountain View Senior Center. And remember that the Citizens Working Group is meeting in June. I believe it's June 17th they're meeting, and they will have processed the oral comments and written comments. They're going to go through a process of developing recommendations, and on July 20th is when the Joint Cities Working Team meets to also receive the oral written comments, receive the recommendations from the citizens group, and they will start working through their process to develop recommendations and proposals that'll go to the 4 councils. If there's no other questions, just thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for following the ground rules, mostly. It was a great meeting, and stay tuned, more to come. Yes, now we can clap. Thank you.